I ran out. Oh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. There's agenda up here. If people want one. Does anybody else in the council need one? Yeah, I would. If you got, oh, that's okay. Right, you got one right here, bud. Need more? Yeah, that's good. I'll share. Oh, there's extra ones here. That way, if you want to make notes on it, Bruce. Thank you. Oh, okay, good. Well, she's not sharing with me, but for the record, this is Monday, July 22nd. This is an extension of our last meeting. We are present in quorum. The reason why I called this meeting was because, to Sarah's point, we need to have this all rolled up into Gateway before the end of the month. Since we know that we're going to be receiving a new auditor this week, I also didn't want to have a big, last minute thing for the new person, because I think that's just completely unfair to throw them in there and say, oh, hey, by the way, you've got all these, all these budgets that need to be entered in. So spoke with you, spoke also with Don, and this seemed to be the most prudent way to move forward. We'll move right into the county council discussion about sort of self-management and complaint discussion right after that. So it may be before 11 a.m. Preferably, hopefully will be. So originally I had actually set the schedule up also trying to work with the court, and somehow there was a miscommunication, but we thought it was still Wednesday. So why don't we go ahead and start with the court first. Oh, 10, I think you said 9. Okay, sorry. Sticking with 10. Okay, then we'll start with health. But it was just 1168. I went and left my stat too. It's 168. How many do we have to go through? 1168. Just 2, I think. I got man. Yeah, that's right. So we have the new one too for Frank, you want to come on up? And I guess Mr. Matros with you too?
I just.
Are you kidding? That's not your fault.
I mean, I think probably is. Probably let people know when
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to interrupt if I may, not to waste the board's time. I'm not particular with Mr. Lynch, but I just had a request since you're discussing the health department budget regarding utility costs. It's not on the agenda. I talked to Miss Sarah about this previously, and I was advised it would be the appropriate time.
Okay. So
I can wait my turn or sit back or.
Well, let's start with that. That way we don't prolong your.
Roger that. Well, I appreciate it.
Is that okay with you, Frank?
Currently in Annex 2, the way it was designed since its inception, the Community Corrections Department is paying all utilities for the year. Community Corrections pays 40%, probation pays 40%, and the Purdue Extension pays 20%.
Yeah.
Since we started, the health department has had no utility costs they paid for. I just think it would be more equitable since the health department is, expanding, future expansion, that we consider the following request that I'm proposing the commission.
It's in his budget though, in 1168 already for utilities. Is this beyond that?
Well, we're just asking for like a 20% cost by the health
61.
Just 20%, so that would reduce our corrections cost to about 30% per year.
How much is 20? He budgeted 5,000.
I've got my financial manager. What do you think approximately is that?
I'm trying to think of maybe. I think about monthly, we pay out $1,500, $2,000 just monthly for ourselves, not including probation.
That seems like a lot. That's like twice as much as the annex as this building.
That was our main reason for this discussion, was because we were trying to save some money, figure out ways to cut costs.
Okay, so
we need to see why it's
that's
so much.
That's 18,000. So if you're paying 40%. So that means another 36. And then 12 plus 48,000 a year is theoretically what that's running. So you're saying you'd like the health department to pay 20%, so that would be like 10,000. So I think there's two things at play. He's already budgeted 5,000. I think when we go to the budget discussion, we'll put a question mark about
I can push. more
taking
into
5
that
from
line
somewhere,
item.
right?
What's needed.
That's what I mean.
It's just like, why are we paying that much on that building?
Yeah, that seems, but I'm gonna put a question mark with 10,000 there. Is it,
What do we pay on the courthouse?
the courthouse is a lot more.
I
But
would
it's
imagine.
it's very inefficient though, but
Yeah,
comparing it to this building, that's,
That one I could see, but we hadn't even redid them. I don't.
yeah,
I can't imagine that whole building using 48,000.
It- sometimes utility companies make the mistake of charging you peak.
I was gonna say,
All the
I
time.
had Rick check into that, cause he
Yeah.
found another building bars. That was getting double the charge and didn't need.
So they may be owing us some money actually, so, thank you, sir. We'll check in. Was that the only question
all I
about
have.
the health budget?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we're gonna put a question mark on that in 1161 for 10,000.
You're welcome to, sir.
So Frank, it's just things have changed so much that we just wanted to kind of get together and see, because we know like the 1161, this is the first inaugural year for it, so I know you had to park
This was a
things.
year for it, but now it was doubled up for
Yeah.
25.
Right,
So
so
I'm
I,
trying to figure out what to do with this money. and
I
things like
understand.
that. So I'm having meetings right and left between Bella Vita, WIC, the hospital, as far as what kind of programs we can.
yeah,
have
because I know we were
in place to
gonna
get
partner
this
with
done.
HealthLink on some of
Right.
those too.
Yeah,
So,
Does all this, I can see Frank's, he's got a. He's got a problem.
programs.
I complain to him, he's got a problem most people don't have the liberty of having, he's got too much money to.
we met with the DLGF on Friday.
Like I
and
said, that's my thing.
explained to them
I
about
gotta
it.
try and come up with programs. So I'm thinking if something's working somewhere else in the state, I'm seeing how I can implement that here.
Is there a time limit on when you have to ear tag this
No.
money? So there's not a tag.
It's as tagged as it needs to be.
Yeah, they're not gonna take it away.
They're only giving me what categories I can put money into.
Right.
So when it's trauma and injury prevention, travel's got 4 or 5 different.
Right.
Travel for hotel, travel for mileage, travel for tolls, travel for, I mean, it's just.
I didn't know if there was a,
Put in anything different. But
I didn't know if there was a
What is your
time.
involvement with that school for that county? Are you involved with them with your budget at all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
As far as what their need is or anything like that, I just bought 2 AEDs for Judson schools. So if they can get some upgrades going on that, I purchased new hearing screening equipment for Head Start as well as a hemoglobin check. That was $6,100. I'm
Okay.
trying to
just
upgrade
curious.
equipment and that kind of thing, but that's my thing is keep it in Stark County. So
Yeah.
in Stark County, let's get the.
I suspect that trauma and injury prevention though, 115,000, that's massive, but I know it's just because you needed to park it. But I mean, I don't know,
It's, because like I said, it's the other stuff that I've got going on is.
right? But in Stark County, we have a lot of problems with health in general, which includes dental, and we have a lot of problems with mental health. So I think ultimately the idea would be that this budget more reflect the needs of the public in the future. It's just right now it's undetermined on how we can do that.
Something I've never had before, and that's something that other counties are throwing in there with some of this money to where if there's a need. If somebody needs x-rays, but they don't have insurance, if somebody's septic fails, then it's a matter of determining.
But we've done a lot of studies. The people in Stark County, primary healthcare, they're not getting.
I'm aware, I've got cancer rates.
I'm just saying, like, ultimately, like, hopefully our goal is, and we've been talking to Don a little bit about this over the last week too. I
I'm
mean,
gonna move it to a different line item,
that's what I'm saying. You may commute some of this is all I wanted to
Yes.
point out.
Yeah, I haven't got anything earmarked for anything specific other than the mobile integrated health
Yeah,
that I'm trying to work on with EMS.
right. The point is, just because you have 115 in trauma and injury, it may change down the
Yeah,
road.
it's just where it can go right now. It's easy place to put it. And so if we need to pull 10,000 out of that for utilities. If
Yeah.
Yeah.
it turns out that we do pay 40,000.
And then, the transportation and health, is that the thing you were talking about
That's
partnering
what I
with
was talking
community
to you as far
services?
as like with community services, I'm talking to them in regards to, you know, how can we increase transportation for residents of Stark County?
That's really.
Not just for medical, but also for food related, anything like that. I don't want to start some type of busing or transportation service.
It involves me funding.
Smoke shop, but
Yeah,
had an incident where, you know, mom did not have a ride for 3 weeks where a kid got hurt and the kid was not displaying any pain, so there was no reason for her to call an ambulance, but yet it was 3 weeks before she got the kid to the doctor to find out he had a broken arm.
So the Council on Aging won't take anybody? Won't they take anybody in the county or?
They will.
they do.
They will
They're
take
just-
anybody, but the stipulations that they have on the grant that they work off of. The drivers have to have multiple certifications,
Right,
whereas
oh,
what is needed for regular busing,
yeah,
a chauffeur's
yeah,
license.
right, right. I
The
get
people
it.
that drive the school buses for the kids,
That's
they don't need all the multiple
They
certifications.
got a public
So
pass.
I'm trying to simplify it down as much as we can so that we can utilize it in different ways.
Well, here's what we also need to do, just as a side thing. Like. We fought with community services about this before, because I talked to you, like, sometimes they'll take one and then they'll wait for 5 hours for the patient to get done with their. And that's just how they schedule, whatever they do it, but that's where the commissioners and the council both, years past, they haven't come to us in a long time because we had that rub with them. But I think the other thing that's really important moving forward is that we get a list, so that way we can communicate with another new CEO at the hospital, but communicate that with the hospital, but also HealthLink to try to provide those services. And I guess there's another.
This is just in the working stage.
No, but what I'm saying though is
Idea is
that a
good.
side thing is though, is we need to know this in government so we can try to drive
I've
that.
got the hospital asking for transportation requests as well, because of people like get brought into the
Right,
ER by ambulance.
But I'm talking about services, like, because you got one that we're gonna like give them transportation, I promise you, there's 100 that aren't even raising a flag about it that need healthcare here. So what I'm saying is, we also need to hear from you too.
But I haven't got the money to get a
No,
doctor.
I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking for a list so we can communicate to the hospital and HealthLink and say, look, these are the unmet needs of Stark County. Like, you're like one of the people that hears these things. We can help with that as county government. Problem is, we don't know what all those needs are. So I'm just throwing that out there as a side thing. Like, if you can have your staff start helping us with that, a list, and you,
Me, yeah,
so the building maintenance, 75,000 and 11, or sorry, 9133.
I mean.
It's just
as far as-
placeholding right now, right?
The 1161, I'm only allowed to use 10% each year of those funds to go towards building improvements, capital outlays, blah, blah, blah. Whereas with the 1168 and the 9133, that money has been pretty much cut loose now by state. That was all local health maintenance and trust account money that
Okay,
had all kinds of stipulations on as far as what I could use it for. Now those stipulations have been kind of removed, so that's why I'm kind of, Rachel wanted me to throw a budget together with those.
I totally understand.
Same thing, if we gotta push something around or anything like that, and again, I put MIH in there again.
And let me just say for the record, Frank, you've always been very conservative with your budgets, like we've
Yeah.
never had
Pretty
any
obvious,
issues
'cause I
with
got-
you. Yeah, now, but here's my question though, because one of the things is that we're, have questions more
Nope,
from the public about how we do budgeting. So just for the record, then, like that $75,000 line or the 115,000, like, is there any oversight for that? Do you come to the commissioners and talk to them about any of that money, or does the health department have sole latitude to spend that funding? How does that work?
As-
People are gonna ask, is why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
My intention of what I've discussed with the board and the health officer.
Yeah.
Something towards public health that helps, that works.
Right.
What is the need?
But how does it get approved, is all I'm asking.
And then as far as the board, I kind of present the idea to the board.
They-
I talk to commissioners. I don't come before the commissioners board because I haven't really got anything enacted yet.
Sure, but you're gonna
So
share that
right
with
now, I'm trying to
commissioners?
get ideas going, trying to get some kind of plan in place, so as then it can be presented. And
Yeah.
it's like moving a rock, man. It is
Yeah.
just slow.
I guess to Dave's point, and we're not trying to micromanage.
No,
by
no,
any
I
means.
got that.
But
But it's a ton of money and you're trying to figure out. where it's
exactly,
going.
because
I get it.
we, me especially, I'm pretty boisterous about putting the hammer on departments about where their money's going and how they're spending it just haphazardly. I mean, I don't see that with you at all,
No,
because there's a very good open line of communication. So I think that's the reason we're here, is just to find out.
No.
Yeah, we just want to have transparency for the
Yeah,
public and
And that's-
not that you're being, non-transparent or, something like that, but we just,
It's just so much money all of a sudden.
yeah.
And I've been working on with Bella Vita since like February and we've not really got anywhere. I did all kinds of.
And I think, Dave, it's like anything new. He's got this new program, these new funds to work with. You know,
I don't know.
in all honesty, some of the stuff's not gonna work for you. Some of the stuff is next, I think
And
after
that's the
this
thing,
year,
we're
when he
not
has,
spending the money,
what,
like with the transportation issue, if it's a matter of buying 2 vehicles. They have volunteer drivers, we set up some kind of a plan, we get something that we think is gonna work. We test drive it for 6 months, see how it goes, see if we've got the demand, if we've got the need for it, what have you.
Right.
I wanna see if we've got the demand.
So they want to haul people though. See, like, I want to get back to the thing again, though. I want to get services here in Stark County for people.
And that's all I'm
So
gonna do.
the other thing is, instead of spending the money on a vehicle, we might be able to take that money, get them to say, hey, the health department's gonna pay for this, bring this service in here, and we're gonna contribute X amount of dollars, and we can do
Doing that.
10 people instead of 1. I would say, let's look at HealthLink too.
In the county.
HealthLink has so much that they can offer.
And I know, but it's the same thing with HealthLink in regards to, as far as Medicaid will pay for transportation for Medicaid patients. But they will send an Uber driver up here from Indianapolis.
Yeah, this is crazy.
And so HealthLink has to specify where you use community services, so at least then community services is using their transportation.
So,
But they're down to 12 people now that I'm testing for.
Yeah.
And so they've got like 6 of them are drivers.
Yeah, again, I just want to advocate
And COVID just.
for our providers. We own those health assets that both entities reside in. So we also have a lease with the hospital, so we have an intimate relationship with them. I mean, obviously, they have a board, so we don't micromanage them. But the commissioners and the council have a lot of ability.
Bigger buildings so they could provide child psych services, so they could provide dental, so they could provide, so we had more services for the county.
And I'm with you.
I think
In fact, I mentioned that to Don,
$100,000 to build a Dollar General.
right? Well, I mentioned that to Don. That was why we bought more property by our jail. I'd love to see us build a health building where you reside, where Rick resides, where somebody like HealthLink can also lease space. I'd love to look at that. We could even bond a project like that and pay it with health first, but we need to start thinking about that too, about offering things here, because everybody can't even use transportation. We need to be able to have them come to Stark County and have services.
Yeah.
So,
I need to give them-
I'll get you one. I got a question. So, community services. They all around people, and you say it has to be a different type of driver. How many vehicles do they have?
I know, I think they're running on 3 vehicles. I mean, we just started talks last month and they were supposed to be getting.
So,
we got back
so that's
to
why
this.
that's why I'm wondering, is there some way maybe you could even partner with them with a different type of driver to take care of some?
I think that's what we saw.
They've got 6 volunteers that are willing to drive,
Okay,
but they don't have the certifications to drive the.
but they will be able to drive the other people we're talking about.
But if I'm able to provide van, car, whatever we decide is gonna be the best plan to start out with to see how it works.
Okay.
you don't have so much on your driver's license.
Let me take
These
some
are the same people that are wanting to do food.
from the audience and then we'll, Justin, sorry, you had your hand up a couple times.
The extra funds that are, there's extra funds in the account, right? Is there a lifespan on that, those extra funds, like?
We met with her about 6 months ago. So far, they're saying into perpetuity, but at least 5 years for this program.
Nothing's going on.
That's just the one thing that ran through my mind.
Yeah, how do we pay for it if it dies out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always worried about that, but
And that's everything that I'm.
administrations change though, and then things change, so it's a good point.
On its own.
You mentioned Bella, what's the issue that? it's not-
We're doing Velveeta as far as trying to, they wanted to start doing STD testing. I'm all for them doing STD testing because I don't have the space to do STD testing. Don't really have the desire to start doing it, but because Marshall County does like maybe 15 a month. We're half the population of that, so we may do 7. As far as people coming with need, but as far as being able to do more people on a regular basis, and especially with Bella Vita. So they're taking care as far as prenatal care or anything like that. I'm trying to beef up what they do already. I'm trying to increase what they have in the diaper banks so they can provide more.
Okay.
Trying to increase the formula, because WIC's only allowed to give out so much
Right.
formula under state regulation. If I can provide more formula to people that are having trouble with breastfeeding, what have you.
Okay.
I mean, there's just so much of it that I'm plugging away at, and trust me, when I get a plan in place, I come and I talk to everybody to try and make sure that it's gonna go smooth.
Can I make a request, Frank?
Please.
Could you, and I wish one of your board could come for this too, but could you come quarterly to the commissioners and to the council and just update us about the health first, just to let us know how it's going? Just so we can help prepare to how we can help you during budget workshops in 25. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure. I don't know what.
Does that sound good, Don?
26, but yeah.
I mean, well, just so you know how the program's going.
No, I know.
Cause we're out in the public a lot and, you know, like, it doesn't matter if we're in a coffee shop and walking out the door, you know, or going to church, whatever, people stop and they wanna ask
Right now, the
stuff.
transportation thing was like the closest thing I've got to play right now. That's why I was trying to include you and Corley in regards to, hey, I've
Yeah, I'm
got
with you, yeah.
some input from council and commissioners.
Right.
If they're interested in coming.
Yeah, the thing I'd like to do though is definitely from you and your board, a running list of things, because we can't provide everything, like people always ask for OB. But a lot of the basic health things, these people should and can and should offer it, and if the hospital can't, we can go to HealthLink. Maybe there's new programs, because one of the things is I went and got a travel vaccine after you recommended it in Valpo, if you remember that, a couple
Mhm.
months back. And so I was talking to them about how their health department runs. They've obviously got more staff. They've got 2 people that work their window and things like that. But they offer a lot of things. Now, there may be things that we can expand on that you can receive revenue to kind of offset some of these things, but. Again, baby steps, renovation here, but I've already been talking to, you know, Don, I maybe loosely talked to a few of the council about it too, but I think ultimately. A health facility in Stark County is something that we need. I don't know if we can have a Y with it and all that other kind of stuff, but at least somewhere where the health department can reside, we can reside. And then we can lease space to somebody like HealthLink that can also provide next stage. Now, just so everybody understands, the reason why I mentioned HealthLink is HealthLink takes everybody, the hospital doesn't. You know, so it's a little bit different story. And then HealthLink has a little bit, some different ways to get more to the ground level, so it's more like a primary.
HealthLink and First Winmac are both federally qualified health.
Right, so you can go there.
It's a look-alike. HealthLink is not.
Yeah.
But at any rate, like I said, if HealthLink had more room, they'd be able to expand services. Child psych is something that we don't have in this county readily available.
Even dental. I mean,
Dental is becoming, it's always been an issue, but it's increasing.
There's several Knox patients that
We
go
went
for
from
dental in Valpo right now.
7 doctors, 2,500 to 3,500 patients per doctor, to where now we're at like 5,500 patients per doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're replacing doctors with nurse practitioners right and left. So
Right.
it's still just one doctor
Right.
overseeing those nurse
But
practitioners.
HealthLink is gonna be receiving fellowships now from physicians that are, you know, in the line of becoming. More advanced in their skills as
And that's
doctors.
Partnering with
So-
everybody I can partner with, and like I said, we're just trying to game it out, make plans, see what works and
Yeah,
then present it.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
And then see if everybody's good with it, and when they are, then we move forward. But that, I mean, like with the MIH, I mean, that's. The holdup with it right now, as far as how are we gonna do billing? And at my point, I just kind of like, let's just start doing it. Let's take 6 months to figure out if we can do billing. I mean, I've got so many things going on.
Yeah.
As far as what's gonna be good for the county, but.
I'll make a motion that we accept 1161, 1168, 9133 as published, with the caveat though, and the commitment from the health department with a board member to meet with the commissioners and the council quarterly to update us on what's going on, and also that we can assist with, you know, developing these programs further.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Guys have a good day.
Thanks, Brian.
Since Mandy's here, we already approved Mandy's budget. Does anybody want to, hear any further discussion about opening it? I think it was pretty clear that we felt like the budget that we voted on was sound, and we were gonna go with that, but, I'm okay with what we budgeted.
May I speak, please?
Please.
So when I was on Zoom, of course, I have other things going on in the office, like recording. So I misspoke on what was actually in the ordinance that you guys approved, that was approved. And so, my office supplies are not in the ordinance, and that's what you took out of my budget. So I have $550, out of my perpetuation fund for postage, $500 out of my perpetuation fund for mileage, and $700 out of my perpetuation fund for my dues and my subscriptions. I did not take my office supplies out of there. So instead of $1,000, it's $700 more that I put into perpetuation for this budget session.
Which one is that?
My office supplies is 20, 201.
Make it easy, because
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic.
Yeah, 20100.
And I did send out an
I
email.
thought we just left the extra help at 5,000.
No,
Did we change the office supplies?
yeah, you took away the office supplies and then I left my extra help at 6.
Only because I thought we were coming out of the ordinance, right?
Right. And that's why I sent this email. Now, I did receive a response from Howard, however, and his email never went through on my email system. But I did not receive a response.
Yeah, I just wanted to, for the board, I just wanted to clarify, and I appreciate you mentioning me, but I think what my concern was at the meeting, because we talked about one of your particular parts of your budget coming up short. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I'd made the comment about, would it be possible to maybe up the fee on a filing fee for something, didn't I?
Yeah, and that
And
was
then-
for
and
the
it-
education.
Yeah, and it was explained to me that we couldn't, and I understand that.
Yeah. And so, yes, Howard, that is my fund.
Right.
And there's probably 91 other counties that actually get to see that fund. However, I do not. I have no access to that fund whatsoever.
No kidding. Well, now, why is that? You don't know?
It's been that way since day one.
So where does the money from copying fees going to?
Copying fees goes into
That's why I
perpetuation.
thought, okay, because I would assume now, since the FOIA thing, there should be money coming into that too, because, right?
Yeah, because we won't be doing any more free copies and people have to do a request now instead of asking us.
Just to protect everybody, and
Yeah.
I think that's such a good idea.
So, I mean,
Okay, so I'm not sure how much more I will get.
It's not gonna be
So-
very much, I know.
As far as I had talked to Justin, and as far as a records request. In our office, the only time they have to do a records request is if they're wanting financials.
Right.
Or something that is not available on my public station.
Yeah, because all the other stuff they can just find,
Right,
yeah, and that's.
unless you have to copy it, you
And that's
have to
very
charge for the
reasonable.
copies.
correct.
But yeah, as far as they can find anything, the public, and they should be
Even
able
if they
to.
print copies, they still have to pay for it off the public stations. However, some of the other offices will have nothing but records requests. I will only have.
I was not
few.
insinuating that public records should be a FOIA request, but obviously they should.
So, and in my email, I also, so in this budget, I was asking for $100,000, $227. In 23, I put in, $50,840. Now that was in 23, because that's my last full, report that I can give you guys. Which means technically out of county general, you're only funding $49,387 of that $100,000. So I would ask that you put my office supplies back for 1,000 and also give me my 6,000 for my extra help. We have also back indexed over 80,000 documents.
Yeah,
We paid for that out of ARPA for the scanning, right?
You paid for scanning. Yes, you did not pay for indexing.
Which
And in
part of the
order-
job, though, was a
It is.
constitutional office.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it also helps to have a part-timer, which also covers when we're at conference, also covers when we are ill, also covers when we are on vacation. And I don't know if you're gonna raise the part-time rates again, because we raised. I'm assuming you gave a 3% raise to employees. And so,
we don't always do it across the board.
and that's what I was figuring in was that extra money, because I did not figure that in last year. when you had given the raise for the part-time. You've never had a problem with your budget until this year. I've been praised on my budget every year.
Well, I know, taking away your thought, I don't remember why we took away the 1,000. I thought we were gonna take the 1,000 out of part-time help. I don't wanna go into office politics, Mandy, but I mean, the council hears a lot of different things too, and, it just seems like you had enough budget for help this year. We consulted the commissioners on that. And so as far as like needing extra help next year, I'm not sure what you're gonna need extra that you had over this year.
Well, it would be nice if I could give her a few more hours to back index more. That goes with the ARPA funds being used. People cannot access the records unless they are indexed. And so,
So what did we do? We took 1,000 out of, I can't tell by this sheet. We took 1,000 out of extra help and then we took the office supplies away. Is that what we did?
no, so the cut out the 1,000 for the office supplies is
That's
what,
it, yeah.
because I misspoke.
Okay.
And then you left the extra help at 6,000.
Oh, so all we did was $1,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I'm saying take it from extra help then and give her the office supplies back then.
because I don't know, are we raising the part-time help?
Sure.
We don't always do across the
Don't always
board,
do
but
it.
theoretically, I don't know, I mean, we may have to just for retention.
We have to look at it.
I'm not big on office holders coming in and asking for additional appropriations. But I don't see why that, as the year goes along, if there is a need for additional appropriations for extra help, why that couldn't come before the council at that time.
Sure.
With that. I mean, that's my, and I'm gonna say something else. Maybe this isn't the time or the place. But I'm gonna say it. I ran as an anti-solar candidate. That's not a big deal because I've changed my mind. But when I see things like without this office, you would not have the solar farms in your memo. I don't think that's appropriate, Mandy, and I just soon tell you that to my face because there's other things that you could not probably do without the recorder's office.
There's a lot of things, and I think I stated more than that. If you ask the title companies, mortgage companies, real estate offices, there's a lot of things. This economy would not flow without the recorder's office.
we understand that.
Every office is like that.
Well, I mean, you could also argue the fact though too, that the anti-solar movement has had a used your office quite a bit for a resource for information, right? As much as you're saying, as much as you're saying that you're for,
Not as much as the solar has.
right, but they have also, right? I mean, both ways, yeah.
Yes.
Could I put a motion on the floor?
Sure. Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion that we put her $1,000 of. Correct me, her office supply money back into her budget. And as she feels the necessity for extra help in her office, she can come back and ask for up to $6,000 in additional appropriations for extra help.
1,000.
I'm sorry, an extra 1,000 for additional help as she feels necessary. I feel that's a fair proposal. Would you like me, since I was a little confused? You want me to read it
No, I
again?
think that's pretty clear. Does anybody have lots of clarity on that? You have a second from Bruce. Now, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, do you feel fair?
No.
Yeah, extra help will go to 5,000 and then office supplies will get its 1,000 back. Okay,
Prosecutor here and I need to call Bernadette.
okay, let's go ahead with the prosecutor. Prosecutor, let's see, what's that? Several funds. Just for 1 second, just to look at them, I'll give them back to you.
Back on that page, it has numbers. 49 on
Prosecutor joining on Zoom or?
She's on.
So what do you know? This is for prosecuting.
But I also, I don't. I thought we were.
The reason why is that Sarah was right, we have to have this rolled up by the end of July. So I don't wanna, they're caucusing a new auditor. And I just wanted to have it for them as soon as possible, because I think we'll know, we'll know tomorrow, Sarah, about the new auditor.
Five is the.
Right, so I just wanted to be proactive for them.
I guess
New auditor should start when.
from what I sent last week, I don't have any other.
That's okay, we're gonna help.
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's
There are
good.
two people, but I don't know the other.
She's got the experience.
We're being more responsible for it this time around, because the last time we had a couple things that kind of like. I sort of slid through a little bit, and we were questioning ourselves after going, oh, maybe we should have looked at that a little bit better, but.
Well, I think. That's the problem.
Okay, it was the shuffling though of the positions that we were trying to figure out how many staff that were there, because. Obviously, the commissioners haven't approved any additional staff, but we haven't approved any additional staff. But then it looked like somebody was getting a pretty fat raise too, so.
So the two girls in child support have been making lower than other deputies in the county. So they brought them up to where all the other like starting out office staff are. And then you have,
Always lower.
that's just how.
Because they were getting paid from another line, I thought, though.
I don't.
I thought part of it got paid from somewhere else, I thought.
Not as far as how it's set up.
Where's,
I actually have that today. So
Yeah, no, I mean, no, really the only thing I changed.
And then on your line, we did talk, there is like one extra salary.
That's what I thought.
Like, their sheet is older than what you resubmitted.
Oh, because I sent this, the one I resubmitted to you, right?
Yes.
Because that has like.
For, is that for, child support?
Yes. Mhm. I can explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first line is Sherry's position. That's the 41-2.
Okay, we're on child support, everybody, 00032.
So the 41-2 is Sherry's position. The second clerk, it
This
was.
is the
This
new
is
one.
what she's looking at. This is the revised.
So the
Your line
one I
might not
submitted
match up.
first, for the second clerk, the budget I submitted first was 98,880. But I resent it to Sarah at the beginning of July, and the second clerk line should actually read 76,400.
Okay.
And then the longevity was for Sherry. I do believe $1,500. The health insurance, I did the percent increases like Rachel advised me to. And then the office support.
So we're just looking at child support right now, right?
We're just looking at child support, but also kind of reflects the other, I'm looking at the totals for the other budgets. What's the, you know what I don't have here is the total for 008. That's okay, I got it over here.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess that's still the thing is the raise, so
This is yours.
008 still is up 48,000. 20,000 of that is the trial preparation, but that's kind of a wash for what you took from child support,
Yes,
but that still leaves 48,000 somewhere that's,
so I added in $5,000 for office supplies as to not have to absolutely pull it out of my PTD fund. So that was $5,000 of the dollars. We're on the 008 one, right?
yes.
Okay, that was $5,000 I added in office supplies into this 008 budget.
So how much are you short office supplies this year that would warrant an increase in $5,000 in office supplies?
We spend a ridiculous amount of money in stamps.
Okay, but how much are you off
that
from
would be
this
total.
year's budget? 'Cause I don't have I mean, you must have
Well, I
had
think it's
some,
still-
you must have had some reason to come up with 5,000.
Sure, because everything was coming out of our PTD fund.
I understand
empty,
that,
And it
but-
was empty, so, I added up. I did add up the office supplies for last year. But I just.
I mean, just so it's prudent, you
Sure.
know what I mean? Cause you take from one, you add to the other, like it needs to balance, like when it comes to taxpayer dollars, there's no reason. No, I got you. No, that's why I'm trying to help you.
Yep. This is definitely the first time I did.
That's the end of it.
So out of our office supplies in the PTD fund last year, we paid out $800 for attorney fees. We paid out $7,700 for child stuff. I'm trying to find the office supply line.
Yeah, cause it sounds like you used it for other things,
Right, I have an
not
office
office
supply one
supplies.
too. I just.
I mean, that's all, you know, I'm not willing to create a 5,000 office supply here, just so you guys have extra money to plug in other places.
I'm just. Trying to find it. It wasn't prepared to come this morning.
Yeah, I understand, sorry.
I'll have to find it. I don't know where it is.
Okay, so let's go back to PTD then.
Okay.
What were the office supplies in PTD before?
They were.
4,000.
And then what is it this year in PTD?
5,000.
So it's 5,000 in PTD last year and it's 5,000 this year, so like. If we're trying to reduce what we're using in PTD, then why wouldn't we put 0 in PTD and 5,000, you know what I mean, like, why wouldn't we wash it?
So
That's
Which-
10,000 then for
sure,
office
okay.
supplies.
just makes sense. Rachel just told me I had to put. Because the PTD fund is generated by the revenue we get.
No, I understand how it works, yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand. So.
Yeah.
So she said I had to make categories under the PTD fund in order to pay things out of it, right?
Right, because you were paying things out of office supplies in PTD that weren't office supplies, that's why she's telling you that, I think,
Maybe.
yeah, because you moved it.
So. So sure, we can take the $5,000 out of the PTD fund and put it in the 008 budget.
Or I mean, or you can split some of it, I mean, just, we can't leave them both, you know what I mean, but. And that'll open up more, I guess, for PTD, like, you know, using it for other things, I
Sure.
guess, obviously you need it for something, so.
Mhm.
So you're willing to take the 5,000 to 0 in PTD.
Mhm.
Did we already prove PTD though?
I don't think you approved any.
Okay,
I think we
okay.
did it all the way. So, yeah, I'll take the 5,000 out of the.
Does everybody hear that? Does that make sense? If we're gonna, if we're going to make up for taking 5,000, of the burden away from PTD for office supplies, then it makes sense to 0 it if we're adding it into in the prosecutor's budget for office supplies. I don't disagree that they need office supplies, but I just don't want to pay twice for them. Because we just reviewed it, and this is not a reflection of you, but we just reviewed it, and normally it looks like they're moving that money anyways and not using it for office supplies. So
We need it to be as accurate.
we're not
as
gonna
possible.
double it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that makes sense to the rest of the council,
Previous year shows that 0 index.
right? But moving office supplies here, and then we'll see in the next budget what the office supplies are actually used for. If we have to move it, so, okay, now, so that's 40. So that's 5,000 of the 48, so let's see, where does, so second clerical assistant under prosecutor, we added a clerical assistant under child support. So what is second clerical assistant that reappeared in 2025? In child support, or in prosecutor, sorry, that almost seems like an extra position.
In the 008,
In 008, there's a new position,
so it's not a new position. It was in the last budget, it was called legal secretary. So what was happening was the money was in one place, but Rachel had to move it to the other place in order to pay it out in payroll. So I just,
008.
instead of putting money in the wrong place, I just wanted to put it to the right place so nobody had to change. the
all right,
money.
let me check that, because for some reason it's
Okay.
38,000 extra, so legal secretary. You're saying in 0008, there is no legal secretary in 0008.
I figured out. I didn't put it in this one because it was the same position as the second clerical assistant.
I had it all.
They literally had what, the money under, like, you understand the thing, right?
There's a lot.
Maybe you can
No,
explain it
but
better.
there's 38,000 extra in this budget for that position, so it came from another, department, is that where we're? That was not budgeted in 24. Oh, I'm sorry, you're saying legal secretary was budgeted in 24. Okay, so 30,000. I got you, I understand now, yeah. All right,
That's right.
paid into the other fund to pay it out in payroll, so I was just trying to
Yeah,
make it
okay.
easier for
That's
them.
right.
all right, so then,
Right, I was trying to put it right.
gotcha, and then is 2,200 3%? No,
No,
2,200, a 2,200 raise is not 3% of 36,000.
It's Courtney, I put her up to 38 too, because that's what you said all the,
This is one of the deputies,
So,
Okay.
yes, Courtney was making,
okay,
we needed to catch her up to.
Okay.
What income.
all right, so the last one is victims advocate. Why did we go from not budgeting anything? Where was that budgeted last year, victims advocate?
I don't know if it, I didn't do budget last year, but my understanding from Rachel is that it wasn't in the budget last year, and so what happened, I'm not sure, before I stepped in and started doing some of the stuff with the budget, I don't know where it was getting paid from, but once I started helping with the budget, I transferred money because you allotted us $65,000 for deputy prosecutor last year for this year, and Mr. Lemon didn't start until
Right, so you have
like,
surplus
so we
money.
had, so we
Yeah.
had some money, so
Yeah.
I moved some of that money to pay the 20% match for Lori this year to finish paying it.
So
I'm not sure-
17,000 is 20% of Lori's.
That's.
Is that why you're asking for 7? Because before, even in 22, when we funded it was 5,400, 24, half of that in 21.
This is the number Lori gave me as the 20% match.
Okay, so that's what that is then. So where,
so that's like $88,000.
But I don't. Okay, well, maybe that, well, I mean, she could probably come over and explain it better. I don't.
so
I
how
don't
much does
know.
Lori make?
I don't know how much she makes, to be honest.
We must know that,
I
right?
don't know.
Because there's a grant
That's what,
Wait, I don't.
department,
Wait, I have.
right? There-
I'm wondering, is part of it needing moved out of the
Yes,
grant into?
well, and is she making 88,000? That's the
I
question.
don't think so.
88,500.
I don't think so.
88,500.
I don't understand how we go from like
I don't think so.
2,000
I don't
to
think so.
17,000, like,
22.9.
42,900. So 20% of that would be like 8,400 bucks.
49 what?
42,900.
How they get.
It'd be 84,20. Right?
I don't do anything with Lori's budget.
Is that what it is? 84,20?
They, how do them get me defined?
Yeah, it doesn't,
What'd you say it was 42 what?
42,900,
Yeah, so that's 8580.
85,80.
Yeah.
So, I think without beating this horse to death, now we've seen where we move things and et cetera. For victims advocate, it would make sense that we only fund that at 85,80. Because that's 20%.
Yeah.
Somehow it came up exactly
I
double
moved
that,
like
which is
13
40%.
I moved $13,000 last year, and that was in. I moved $13,000 from the one prosecutor to the other. Right, I moved that in April to cover the 20% match from April on.
Well,
transferred-
we just said her salary is 42,900.
So
We're not gonna over budget that. I don't know if it got moved for other stuff either. I'm not questioning you. I'm
not
just
sure.
saying, if you're saying a 20% match, that's 20% of 42,900.
Is there some other 20% matches that we're paying? Positions we're paying? There's not, right?
I mean, it was 0 last year.
Yeah.
We're going to 8,500. That's a big deal.
Yeah, we're not going to 70. We're not going to 70.
I would say 85,80.
Yeah.
And then, let them find it, honestly, I feel bad that the prosecutor's throwing you to the dogs, because this is your first one and. That's why we're taking this extra time to try to help you.
In April.
Yeah, well, we know you're good with numbers. I've worked with you for a long time. So, I would say if somebody wants to make a motion of that we make that adjustment and move on.
I'll make the motion that in 00008 victims advocate, we change that from 17,697 to 8580 to reflect the 20% of the grant.
I'll second
A motion and a second from Kay. Is there any further discussion? 85,80.
8580.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Okay.
Okay. And then since Bernadette's here, can we move? Thank you. You're good.
So I think, so all that really, besides the 85.
Victims advocate
Does
is the only thing that
does the-
changed.
Did the $5,000 come out of the PTD fund too, though? Did you zero it out to PTD fund?
No way. You made a motion.
I'm sorry. Can you make a motion to amend to add that,
What am I at?
taking the 5,000 out of PTD?
Okay, I'd like to amend that motion that we remove the 5,000 from the PT.
Thank you for that, gentleman.
Yeah.
Is there a second? Second, okay, all those in favor, aye? Is there any opposed? And that's just because we're moving office
I didn't
supplies
know.
out of one into the other, so that's why we zeroed that out.
Everything else for them is approved.
Two things, yeah. Thank you, yeah, and then, you know what? Hopefully you're gonna be around still. You know, the other thing is that, you know, if you wanna get together earlier before the budget workshop, you know, we can get a couple of us together, whoever's available, and we'll go through in advance. That way it doesn't seem like your feet are on the fire. Just like the health department budget, as things expand and change, sometimes it's just hard to get on the same page with everybody.
That'd be great.
Sure, okay, thank you. Bernadette? Did we approve the election budget and just had Bernadette's, or what did we have left for Bernadette?
Blurred, it was election.
Election
Because
was,
it was.
because it's not an election year. We went through this 2 years ago when it wasn't an election year. We just didn't understand because you have your numbers so high still. What are you gonna use it?
Compared to what it is this year, I have for one election, if we get a public question, which there are grumblings out there that one of the school systems are going to do a public question because this will probably be the last year that they'll be able to.
Don't they pay, doesn't the school have to pay us back?
Yes, they have to pay us back.
So then why would we budget it?
I want it in the budget because if I have to come and ask for money, then it makes me feel like I'm not doing my job properly.
I don't think we feel like that though.
Well, that's-
Especially you've done an awesome job. You've done an awesome job.
I think
So-
we put the pressure on them.
Honestly,
Well, we have to pay it first and then we get reimbursed back for it. So I want money that I know I can run an election.
I have to admit, I haven't been following the school very closely. What are the kind of questions that are coming along for the school?
Which
these days?
school, which
Is it?
school? Or is it not public?
It's not public.
It's not,
so I
okay,
can't really
that's
say.
no problem then. All right. Then I think, for us, I think it would be better if we like adjust like 3% on your previous non-election one. And then if you need more, that you come to us. We understand that. We're not gonna scrutinize you for that, like.
Like that because it makes me feel like I'm not doing.
Well, the problem is that the state board of Health doesn't like for us to budget something either, though, that, and I should say the DLGF, I should say, doesn't like us to budget. Because we talked about this in our meeting the other day about budgeting for elections, and it's something that's, you know, brought up, and they're like, well, you know, additional appropriations for things like that. That are different than additional appropriation for, hey, I didn't budget enough for, you know, something that I should have been
If
responsible.
I didn't have any grumblings of this happening, I probably would have left it alone, but.
Well-
With knowing that next year is gonna be the last year that they can do it, I'm not even sure it's gonna only be one.
But it's still just grumbling.
Well, then we may need to budget even more then, so, I mean, honestly, I think that it would be better if we had 3% to your previous non-election year budget. What was that?
That was, in 23,
Do you have,
21,590.
Because we need to at least make a cost of living adjustment to that, just in case.
well, the employee needs to go up. The part-time help needs to go up.
That's why I'm saying 3%, because we're giving a 3% raise.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sorry,
Yeah,
I don't.
here, it's right here.
Yeah, so it'd be 120. So.
The canvassing board can go down to nothing. The precinct board can go down to nothing if this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
The election board's gotta stay. Provisional ballot board can go down to nothing.
So we'll take out the canvassing board, right?
Take out canvassing and precinct board.
Okay.
And take that out.
Okay,
Election board has to stay. Provisional board's can go.
okay,
Travel board can go.
okay,
Travel's gotta stay.
okay.
Service contracts gotta stay. That's one thing I wanted to mention to you guys.
Wait a minute,
Last year-
we don't use.
No,
voting machines,
we still have to pay the service contract, which. Up until last year came out of IT. That's one reason why my budget went up $20,000 because. The service contract for microvote comes out of my budget now, not out of IT.
I don't remember
because
us
it never-
reducing the IT budget by that amount. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, starting last year, it came out of where it's supposed to come out of, not out of IT.
So we can do is rent polling places.
Newspaper and advertising, I cut that in half. Cause I still have to do some advertising.
Right.
The polling places can be cut. Precinct board meals can be cut.
Okay.
Prepare voting machines can be cut. Leave the repair, please.
Yep.
Election day support can be gone. Of course, the clerical assistant can't go anywhere. The elections, oh, it's only at 25. The election supplies can probably go down to 15.
Why would you keep registration supplies if you're able to reduce election supplies?
I have to keep registration supplies because we'll still have voter registration fees.
I got you,
People
but there's
still
not
need
gonna be
stuff.
people beating the door down to register in a
You're gonna be
non-election year.
surprised.
You gotta
The
cut,
paper?
we gotta cut that one. Tell us what you can cut it to, 1,500? It's gotta be cut.
2,000?
What was it in 23?
2,000.
All right, 2,000.
That's what it was in this year?
No.
No.
That's
It was
what we're
3,000
doing.
this year.
All right,
Sorry.
Postage.
that's it.
What about postage? It'll still be 4,000?
Yeah, you won't need that much postage.
Cause that's actually. It should be more than this year. Probably.
It was 750 in 23, wasn't it?
No, it was, no, in 23 is 3,000.
Oh.
Until we went to 4,000. It was 35 last year. And
You
this one's
wouldn't,
not
you wouldn't
last
have that
year.
much mailing, would you?
All the voter registrations and the
But that's,
SAMCs.
that'd be just for that school district though, right? That'd be
No,
Only for one school
voter,
district.
no, voter registrations we send out with every voter that registers and gets a mailing. And then it's supposed to be an off year, the SAMCs have to go
What
out.
if for a voter,
Voter register, to keep the, my poll books clean,
All right, so
we
what's
gotta
that make-
mail
that
out the
make-
SAMCs.
Shit, I have no idea.
I don't know if we're keeping track of.
Todd is,
I'm not keeping track of it, so I'm gonna right now.
Sort of.
Where's the other page here? Okay, so. Okay, hold on, let me add all this up. So we have 600, 8,800. Okay.
What are you? Are you?
400,
Well,
1,200,
2,000,
1,000,
11,500,
500,
5,400,
400.
3,000.
No,
Wait, you got
we changed it to 2,000.
this one? Okay.
Yes, we took 1,000 out of that.
We put it on the wrong line.
well, with,
No,
You can
that's,
take postage down to 3,000.
that's what we did.
Okay.
3,000.
Okay, so. Alright, so we got 1,000 off there. We took 1,000 off there. Took off 1,000 there,
That's it.
no, then
So far.
11,
Oh, we did that.
give it like
Oh,
2,000. 400. 400. Okay.
1,500, 400,
Okay,
and back over here.
back over here.
8,800 and 600.
And the 4650,
4,650.
the absent voter board. We don't need absent voter board if,
No, we didn't. take
Okay.
that.
So that's 29 fingers. So it's 4650 that we live,
Yep.
4650.
so that's $34,050 right there.
That puts me under 100. That's employee and part-time.
Okay,
all right, somebody wanna make a motion?
you're not gonna be Mike.
Are you listing everything out? Can't read it.
We can't read it. Where's your paper at?
I didn't write out his
Exactly
paper,
what I'm changing.
because it's not my
I
paper.
got another second. Only got-
Do you want to go line by line, or do you want me to?
We can just do it line by line. Let's just do it line by line. It
Yeah,
makes
you're
it
good.
simple.
It's not going on.
Where's the, okay. All right, I'd like to make
Can I see
the
this?
following motion for the following deductions in 0019 election. Absentee, absentee voter board, subtract 4,500. Canvassing board,
No, the absent 4650
I
from
can't
the,
see it crossed down, I'm sorry, 4650. Canvassing board 600. Precinct board. Is it
88.
8,800?
Or you could just tell her zero on the ones that are zeroing out.
Yeah,
zero,
that,
okay.
cause I'll have the old.
Would that be easier?
So if you
Okay.
just tell me what you're.
Okay, provisional ballot board, 0. Travel board, 0. Newspaper and advertising, 400.
Mhm.
Polling places, 0. Precinct meal, 0. Repair voting machine, 0. Election day support, 0. Registration supplies, 2,000. Election supplies, we have 1,500. Postage, we have 3,000. So that's everything.
Did you do election day support? 0, okay.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a
I'll second
second?
that.
A second from Tony. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
You guys left the service contract at
Yeah.
19.5, right? Okay, because I have to pay for the poll books and.
All those in
my
favor?
vote.
Aye.
Thank you, both.
Oh, not it?
Don't come back asking for money.
Okay, so. You know what, we're right. Let's we would have the judge at 10. It's kind of
Uneven.
We're here for court.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's what I said. We have the judge for 10 and it's 10, so we're in good shape.
You went for it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, as much as we possibly want, once in a lifetime thing, but.
Okay, so
We got 29.
But.
Yeah, 193, right?
Probation officer and precinct, is that what you meant?
yeah, it was, we were only,
There's 29.
so, yeah, we want to look at that, but then also it looks like
Yeah, 2,100.
we weren't sure
Right.
if this was compliant with the 3% either, I think, right?
2105
Probation?
For just like across the board, the raises were supposed to be 3%, like first deputy probation officer went from 56 to 61.
That's state mandated.
Probation officer.
Okay,
I have the statute.
now,
Okay,
if you say it's, so second probation officer also is mandated?
all probation is state mandated salaries. And we
Okay.
pay out the minimum.
I met with you about the jurors and not being enough, but I mean, what, like, just remind me this year, like how much you're short on jurors so far?
We ran out at the end of May,
Into May.
and it's, the problem is with the jury, it's incredibly unpredictable. We could have a trial every single month, we could have 2 trials the whole year, it's so unpredictable.
The change from administrative assistant from 195 to 203, that's not 3% either, is it?
It should be 3% for each full-time employee that's paid out of
Okay,
that.
let's just check those. I think that's the only questions that we had.
95, what is it?
195,035 times 1.03. Mainly it was just the probation officer stuff, but if that's statute,
288,605,
no, you had, what is it?
200,086.
You guys have 203, 116 in there. And then do this 82,674 times 1.03,
282 what?
674.
674, 1.03, that's 85,154.
Yeah, that one's also off too then.
Well, don't you
Not
multiply
the, not
that,
the same percentage though, oddly,
don't you multiply by 0.03? If it's
But
but times 1.03 to get that number,
Yeah.
but. So it might have just been a clerical error on those two then. So like, you're agreeing that the idea was to be compliant with the
3%.
3%.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, that should be, the next one should be 200,886.05. That's 3%.
I think that was,
oh, yeah, Rachel's salary did change during the year, it wasn't. Or.
was that another one of those that got moved up to the deputy pay or something?
No.
Why did it change?
She's for court, it's a Title
Senate.
Title 4E grant.
Right, it's a small change, but it is.
So if it's from a 4E grant, why isn't it coming out of 4E and why is it coming out of the main?
It's a
I
reimbursement.
hate those stupid reimbursements. Doesn't really help the commissioners out. Okay, so like, which one is that? So that one's out of which one?
That one is out of the administrative assistant.
First administrative
Yes,
assistant, okay.
no, just the administrative assistant.
So the only one we need to change then is first administrative assistant,
Yeah.
because that one was wrong too.
I don't know if that's, no.
So just so we can go back to this, so. Your salary was off by $8,000 that,
No, that's, no,
so,
that wouldn't compensate for.
so
all.
part of it's the 3%, the other part of it is. So 200, so your salary was off by it would be 3,000, because you said 200,000, so it was off by 3,000, or the reimbursement's 3,000.
The reimbursement. You gave me
Ish.
notes. I should have notes on that in here.
That's in the ballpark,
Yeah.
that makes sense then. So what about first administrative assistant?
The first administrative assistant is my salary.
Should that be 3%?
That should be 3%, yes,
Okay.
but I also I only put the 3% on my base pay, the extra 5,000 isn't calculated at 3%.
Yeah, that should be.
So that comes from somewhere else though, right?
No, it comes out of here, but we don't add the 3% onto the extra 5,000. We only add the 3% onto the base and then the 5,000 on top of that.
In 24, wasn't the 5,000 included in the 82,674? I'm just
Yeah,
trying
it
to
would have been included, yeah.
Yeah, so basically. So 82,674 minus 5,000 times 1.03,
Yeah,
then
that-
plus the 5,000.
That,
would be the
Yes,
calculation.
yes.
so that's gonna be legit.
Cause we don't give the raise on the extra.
Right, no, I'm glad you told us that, that's good,
Okay, times 1.03 plus 5,000.
plus 5,000,
So that does come out.
it's close.
Yeah.
So, okay,
That comes out to be
$85,001.
85 and $1.
Okay. I think that's the only question we had, right?
So we're gonna leave it the way it is, we're gonna put the
We're gonna leave the
85,001.
We should put it to the 85,001, just to be prudent.
Okay.
Wasn't there one other thing too? The jurors, we knew that was going on. Like I said, I met with you guys about that. There was one other thing. Guess not. No, everything else looks okay. Somebody want to make a motion about that?
That's the only thing we're changing?
Yeah.
All right.
Except, it's just the
Administrative system.
the first administrative assistant.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we change the first administrative assistant to 85,001.
Have a motion and a second. I have discussion. Are you saying that you don't have longevity put in for that?
But the reason it might look higher is because longevity would be added to that after that raise.
But that should be somewhere else though. Right?
Do you have a long, I don't think they have a longevity line in
Yeah.
there, do they?
We do have a longevity line,
Should be.
but when I calculated each salary. I would have put, I'm just saying it could have been included in what her salary was, even though there was a
That
longevity
probably would
line.
have made the difference in that little bit of money.
Yeah, cause it's like $2,500.
That sounds about right.
And she and I are paid out of that and I don't get longevity, so it would just be that.
Well, then that would stay the same then.
I would say, yeah, that one would be fine.
Yeah, the motion I said would be correct.
Okay,
What are you changing to?
just changing one thing then.
The first administrative assistants to 85,001. That reflects the 3% minus the 5,000 plus the 5,000.
We had a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? I just want to check my phone. Was it Kane? Oh, no, sorry, Tony.
That's a
Was
real
fun.
creative book you
Um,
can have there.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard for us to follow some of that because we don't know exactly, you know, how you do some of that. I just wanted to check here. Cassie's not online, is she? I thought she had a question too, but I just got a text. I just made sure it wasn't Cassie. Okay, it wasn't. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys.
Thank you, Judge, for us.
You're well, thank you.
So, sorry too, Rachel, about confusing that about Wednesday versus Monday.
Worked out fine, thank you.
We're done with budget stuff.
You have everything you need for the budget?
So,
Okay, sir.
While we're discussing budget, I just wanted to see if there was any updates as far as the Stark County Fair ticket sales, because I know that they were requesting.
It's a good question. All I know is that they received the check. I don't know how much, but it did exceed the 50,000.
Yeah, they received the check and that's good.
They received the check. Was that what you heard too, Don?
I didn't hear it, I knew
Not that they have it in hand, but they were expecting a check. They were expecting, above that. So,
So
yeah.
the carnival actually made the fair board money this
That's
year.
awesome.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, very glad to hear that.
fair this
It was.
And then, just an idea throwing out there, as far as the health board or the health department, for the extra funds. Maybe considering investing in some local gardening or local greenhouses and, helping to boost the farmers market and, this is where I want to say, encourage, healthier eating lifestyles.
There's actually a line in there, health is food, that's in the budget. So there is a start with that. And Health Link actually has a big thing on that too. Food is energy, food is health, that they have their Health Link. So yes, that is, and what they do is, like with Health Link, not only do they provide help you buy the food, but they also help you make the selection of the food, because here's the whole thought about it is that, let's say, for example, I make 20,000 a year. I go to the store and I can buy for $1, I can buy junk food, but broccoli is $5. So the idea too is to close that gap going to healthier stuff, you know what I'm saying?
So, like when I was a kid, the one thing that always pictures in my head that I'd love to see again, I know it was privately owned, but that giant food stand that was right next to the tracks on Highway 8, that family actually owned it, back in the day. That's something that, and I know that's not anything over that the county has control over, but that's something that I'd like to see.
It was this one road.
The farm actually goes out to 6 or 8 churches and plants a garden every year.
Ah, that's true.
They give it to the country.
There's one in Hamlin at the Methodist Church, I know,
Yeah.
and some other places too.
They just
Forgot
have
about
to
that.
water it.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I know that's not the county's responsibility, to put up food stands.
But you are right, it's in Stark County compared to other counties, it is hard to get fresh vegetables when they're in season.
Yeah.
Without driving 15 miles.
Yeah.
You're right,
That definitely encourages local.
And
except sweet corn.
I was, but the problem is, hey, getting sweet corn at Bennett's is like getting fish over at the conservation club in Grovertown. You better know what time to get by, come get it, because it's gonna be gone.
I never had a problem, Bruce.
You never have a problem.
I never have.
Which maybe old Dave don't rank like you do.
Maybe not.
I'm just saying.
I was gonna say, you go to the back door to get it, yeah. Okay, is there any more input about the budgets? Don, do you have any, are you happy with, where we arrived with that?
I think so.
Okay. So the other thing that I put on the agenda was that we've had a lot of discussion, about, I probably should have said code of conduct or whatever, but the bottom line is without mentioning any names today. What I just want to say that I added this personally to the council because I've been approached by the commissioners and several council members saying, look, you're the president. You've let this thing really drop with, talking about, how we feel like the council, we govern ourselves. So I just want to make it really clear, regardless of rules, laws, or anything else, if we were upset with one another, the approach to that would be as a body that we deal with it if we want to. We can always pursue whatever we want. But with the First Amendment, with laws, I mean, people can say certain things, whatever else. And so where we've ended up now is that without getting an attorney involved or anything else, or speaking about individuals, this is a chance for each one of you, each one of us, and Don, if Don would like to have some input on that also. And the auditor's office, because we not only is Sarah the chief deputy right now, but she's also the head of HR. This is the chance for you to get it off your chest on, your opinion on, at least for our governance, for our council, how you feel that we should operate on social media out in the public. Again, this is opinion. I don't, and do we have, there was an attorney that wanted to attend this. Justin, do you know if there's any other attorneys that are attending this meeting?
I don't see anybody else online. I know that Attorney Bush had received the Zoom link this morning.
Okay, but he did receive the link and the communication that we were going to discuss this matter.
Yes.
Okay, because I did hear from his client, and the client had told me that he was going to be present for it, so. I'm afraid maybe that because it's not 11 o'clock. Maybe that's why he's not here. I don't have his number, Justin. Do you think that we should give him a quick call to see if he was waiting till 11? Or this meeting is being recorded? I mean, what do you think, Justin? I just don't want to be non-compliant with, if we've made an expectation that we're not going to talk about this until 11.
Yeah, let me pull up his email real quick, because he sent me some correspondence about his schedule this morning.
I just want to give deference to that, just in case.
It looks like in an email Friday afternoon, he said he wasn't available until 10:15 on Monday. So I know he was in court this morning. I'm not sure if that was 10:15. I think he's out of Valparaiso, so I'm assuming that's 10:15 your time.
All right, as long as we don't name his client, I don't think we have any, it doesn't behoove us to wait till 11 o'clock, does it? I mean, or what's your opinion, Justin?
You're just talking about general code of conduct. I don't see really any issues with that. If you're going to single anybody out in particular, I would be cordial and wait.
Okay, let me just go to the council. Does the council feel that we can speak generally about this, or do you want to actually speak specifically about somebody? Personally, my preference would be that we speak generally at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's just-
But at least that because we've let this draw, to those of you that have approached me, Don as well, we've let this draw too long. That's my fault. I should have acted more swiftly with that. I apologize for that. So, okay, Justin, I think that we'll just stick with this time and so, I think we'll just go start at the end if Tony feels comfortable with that, or I'll start.
Yeah, no, I mean, so basically the whole deal with the conduct is right, is we all agree. I mean, I've been approached by every council member in here about the situation. We just, we're councilmen or council people, we do represent our county. And I think that, just saying obscenities and different things like that, you don't have to like everybody in this county. I mean, that's a fact, because nobody would ever do anything. But we need to make sure that when we conduct ourselves, that, we act accordingly and we don't say things publicly, whether personally or any other way. I mean, because you can say, well, I said it as this, or I said it as that. Ultimately, the reason it's hard for us to sue somebody for slander and things as elected officials, because when you become an elected official, you basically are no longer just you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the deal I feel about it. I just think everybody needs to be cordial to all the people around them and talk to them with respect or just disregard them. I mean, I think that's just an adult way to be. I'm almost 50 years old, and I think that's something that I feel everybody should be that way. If you don't like something, don't say anything. Don't keep on and on.
You thought he was older, didn't
You just thought I was older than Todd? Wow.
you? No, Todd thought you were older, but
Okay.
yeah, I thought you were more Todd's age.
You know what? Here's how I'm such good conduct that I think that Todd's a very young looking gentleman, but that's pretty much, I think, I'm not saying nobody has to get, but the other part of it is, yeah, people say, well, you're saying this, well, yeah, I mean, people are asking me, I've got to hear where a gentleman has asked me, said, if you guys have any morals at all, you will say things, you report this, and I did report that to you. But it's like, I feel like I'm the very vocal one here, because I have been in contact, I mean, by every person that's council, like, oh, this is not right. Again, that's part of my flaw is being very vocal, because everybody does want transparency. And when I said that stuff about when I run for things, transparency is the best way to be. And I'm all about that. Right's wrong. Right's right, wrong's wrong. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, me, Dave, that's how I believe.
I agree.
And if I don't like somebody, I'm not gonna sit there and if I like them, I'm gonna love them to death. That's just, but I'm not gonna sit there and be mean, belittle them, or, say bad things as a council person. So I think we should all do that.
Oh, okay, Steve has joined us, so, Steve, are you able to pick up our audio, everything okay?
Yes, I can hear fine, thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure at what point that you entered, but we are just speaking in general terms. We're not, gonna be mentioning any names of any that would include your client or anything, but we're just having an open discussion about our own code of conduct and just kind of personal board expectations.
Okay, that's fine. I just clicked on just now, so
Okay, no problem. Welcome.
thank you.
Tony, did you have anything else?
I mean, I think that pretty well sums it up, right? Just.
First.
Well, me being almost 50 years old also, I tend to agree, with Tony, but I think the point that we need to remember, not only as a council, but as the citizens of Stark County, we have a general, goal. We want to see Stark County strive. We want to see us, enjoy, perhaps a little bit of advancement through different programs that we have. The fact of the matter is, when we are elected to serve all the people. And it's easy for us to get our pet programs or those that we're against. But I think in general terms, we just need to stay positive and look at both sides of the program and agree to disagree. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Howard?
I have nothing to add to that right now.
I'm good.
My turn? Yes, sir.
Well, I agree with most everything they say. I think as any of you that would happen to look at my county council Facebook page, I never post hardly anything on it because I don't want to misconstrue anything that I've said is said by me as a county representative. I'm now on my personal page, yeah. But I never slam anybody unless they need it. And they're not local people. Yeah. I just think. I mean, everybody thinks this job is full of graft and collusion and everything else. Well, not everybody. Well, I got news for you. This job is really a hell of a lot tougher than what you think.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs to stay in their wheelhouse. And that's what I try to do. I don't try to go outside of my wheelhouse and just try to do stuff haphazardly and crazily. I have had several complaints from people about conduct of council members. These people I don't know. And I advised them what they should do about it. I didn't know if us handling it was the proper way because, I mean, there's the First Amendment. I mean, where do you draw that line? I don't know where you're a private citizen and then you're a council person, and you're always a council person.
Yeah.
We're not a council person during this meeting we have. We're a council person all the time. So I don't know how that fine line is drawn for that. I mean, I don't know. All I say is we just need to think about what we say and say what we think. That's all I've got to say.
So, I just to add to some of that was said, I've been sitting here longer than everybody here. And a county employee for a long time also, and several of you have been county employees too. I have to say that the last couple of years have been different than the 12 before that. And it's been odd, because we've been at odds in different ways. Feel like we've always been everybody friendly to each other too. Recently, I've been, ridiculed for that about, why does everybody have to be friends that are involved in the county government? I think it's great that we get along. I think it's great that we can all go together and break bread at a picnic or, see each other at an exercise and, outside of government and get along. Like, I don't see a problem with that. I don't think we have to be adversarial. I don't think we have to be, once we're elected, we don't have to be political. And we never had that before. And, so I'll just use my own self as an example. And I did hear this from a couple of council people that brought this up. It didn't now, but it came to mind. Is that you have to be self-conscious about that, and it's just like if you're elected official or a celebrity or anybody else, if you're a step further into the light, that some people think you're representing them. Like, I feel like, I don't have to feel this way, but I have to tell you, all these years, I've had to change things, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to tell my friends, like, please don't post that picture of me holding a can of beer, you know, or, you know, something on a shirt that, you know, maybe is derogatory, but I don't want it to be, because I don't have a Dave Pearman for County Council page, never felt like I needed one. I wanted to get out and meet people, and if they want to go to my main Facebook page, you know, I want them to be able to see that. I will tell you though, I feel like it's limiting though, like, you know, like, I want to be a little wild sometimes too. But as an elected official, I don't, you know, and so that's my choice. I'm not gonna say unfortunately, but the First Amendment does protect people, it turns out. You know, apparently you can, you know, you can basically almost say what you want. I will just say though, just as a piece of advice, that you have to be careful about what you say about individuals or about their businesses, things like that, because since you are in that light a little bit further, you could actually hurt them more than just a run-of-the-mill person that's out on the street. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, people look to you, maybe look up to you a little bit more, just think, oh, well, hey, like he must know a little bit more, or she must know, because, you know, they're involved in county government. And so, you know, you have to be careful of that. I'm just gonna be honest and say there's been complaint. I don't know, I don't know if I can say complaints, but there is a complaint about me, and I'm gonna tell you about what it is without naming any names or getting any detail, but let's give you an example. I was in a private meeting, that's a caucus meeting. And I said something, and it was probably a little bit more emotion too, but I did throw some caveats to it. That information was taken from that meeting out of context and brought out to the public. Not by permission of the people leading that meeting, nor by myself. And so the only way the public received it was out of context. But I've had communications from 2 or 3 people that were upset about it. And it's kind of perpetuated itself. It happens, but you know, even in the case of a private meeting, I should have been more cautious about myself and thought a little bit more about my words. So I'm just saying that, you know, those kind of things can bite you in different ways, whether they're true or not, whether they're said in the right form or not. You know, it's just extremely important. And so, you know, I'll close with that and not make this too wordy, but you know, again, I want to go back to one thing though, too, is that we are a council and hopefully we're united, but in that scenario, if we ever do want to act on something, I don't want any of you to have this meeting make you feel stifled either, because if a majority will go with you, and I'm just gonna say, like, if we ever get to the point where somebody does something and as a majority, we feel like we need to remove them, First Amendment or not, if we're together and we want to take action, we're not gonna be scared about that either. At least I'm not. I will support you if we have a majority and we need to move forward on something. So I'll leave it at that. Anything else?
Ask me, I will.
Please, yeah.
We represent the county, the council, the commissioners. I agree with Todd 100%, but have the guts to do it face to face. We're all friends, but we don't get along all the time. We argue. You don't Facebook it, you don't put it all over. I'm the county commissioner, and me and Howard fought last night. And we don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
We take it face to face, not Facebook. Good point.
Good point.
Yeah.
Sarah? Anything from an HR perspective that you wanted to share? Okay.
Well, real quick, just so, I mean, real quick. I mean, from HR or even auditor, I think the whole county government as a whole should look at things like that. Even if you're an employee here, I think, you know, you should be careful how you say things and do things as well. And you should conduct yourself, because everybody works for county, in county government, right down the highway worker and everybody, we all represent our county.
Yeah.
So let's just say a highway worker or somebody, he goes out here and he's hot rodding up and down the road, you get complaints, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where we should all be mindful that we represent the county.
Yeah.
Stark County is, you know, I'll probably catch it for this, has always been seen, what I feel like an underdog, and I've been here my whole life, and I'm gonna say it. But I mean, they've always, Stark County, Marshall County many times, Stark County, blah, blah, blah. Say that. I'm just saying, and it's been like that, and there's no reason why we can't change it, why it has to go deeper and further into it, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's what we need, that's what we always wanted.
To your point, employers do that now. They look at people's Facebook page, like, maybe they're not supposed to judge them by it, maybe it's their First Amendment right, but I'll tell you what, they do discriminate on, against candidates, or at least. When I say discriminate, I don't mean like, constitutional discrimination, I mean just. The hierarchy of deciding who you're gonna hire, that might be the one thing that, you lift up the hood in a car and see if it's clean or not, it's the same thing, like if you got two really great candidates and you look at the one's Facebook page and say, oh man. That person, this or that could be a deciding factor too. And I will say the other thing now, just to the point that some of what the public's made is. I guess the decision for that is really made at the voting poll, as far as that goes, and people will look to that too, so. Is there anything else from the boards? If not, I'd like to ask the two attorneys if they have anything they'd like to add.
No comment.
If it's about this, we aren't taking any public comment on the county council thing, just in fairness, but, because that's what we advertised, but. Is it about that? I'll go to the
It's
end.
just an idea.
I'll go to the end for general comment.
Yeah, this is Steve Bush. I'd like to comment if I could.
Please.
All right. One statement that I disagree with substantially was the comment that First Amendment or not, if we decide to do something, we're going to do it. Well, I think Mr. Schramm would probably advise that is going to start down a very slippery slope that does not have a good outcome. I've been an attorney for 48 years, and what has happened with the practice of law in that time is unbelievable. I don't agree, for instance, with some of the Israeli-Palestinian, this is covered by the First Amendment and free speech. I think there's a line when you get to where someone is promoting violence or hatred or something of that nature. But that's not necessarily the way the courts are seeing it right now. I think any one of you as elected officials have a very difficult, almost no-win situation with the public today. All you have to do is look from the national level down. Nothing you do is going to please everybody. And at any given time, a comment that one of you makes is going to piss somebody off or a whole lot of somebody's. That is unfortunately elected politics today. I don't know, I'm past that stage at this point, but I don't know that I ever would have considered getting into it because of that. So I understand the issues that you have facing you. As far as the First Amendment, everything I've been made aware of in this situation is absolutely, totally covered by the First Amendment. And I think as a council, if you're going to look to at some point potentially remove a member of the council, an elected official, for comments that they have made, they better be really, really substantial, because again, I think Mr. Schramm will tell you, you're inviting a lawsuit, and if it is a free speech issue and you've gone beyond the scope of your duties, you all face personal liability for that. So I think these kind of things need to be resolved internally. I think open discourse is the best policy, but just because somebody doesn't like what someone says doesn't mean that gives you the right to remove them. That seems to be the philosophy in this country today. And it's not what we were founded on. That's not what the Constitution says. So I appreciate you allowing me to participate in this today. But those are just some of my thoughts listening to the comments of the council members. Thank you.
I'll just rebut that really quick. Sorry, Justin, before. I'm just saying, and I'm sorry, Steve, you're not our attorney. You don't represent us. I'm just saying we govern ourselves. I'm just saying, if we get into that situation, win or lose, there are some times when you have to make a statement. If we decided we wanted to do it, if there was a majority with our board, I'm just telling you that I will support you as a majority personally. That's just me speaking about me, part of this board. So anyways, just to rebut that, but I don't disagree with what you're saying, Steve, about whether it's winnable or not, but sometimes it's not just about whether something's winnable. It's the principle of it. So, Justin?
Well, I don't really have a whole lot to say over and above what I mentioned last week at the commissioners meeting. I guess something that I've been fairly consistent with, either on a macro or micro level, whether we're talking about a specific council member the council at large is, cordiality. And I guess it's easy for Steve and I to be able to differentiate between professional and personal. I guess I kind of live by the adage, attack the idea, not the person. And again, people like Attorney Bush and I have the ability to do that because of the nature of what we do. But I don't know. It's no secret. We've got a lot of very divisive topics in the county right now. We've got one big one and several smaller ones. And something this is probably worth bringing up at the commissioners meeting because it's more of a personnel issue. And something I mentioned to everybody is the overabundance of complaints that I have received that I've had passed along to me. Some from elected officials about other elected officials, some about elected officials about employees, employees about elected officials, the general public about any one of the three that I just mentioned. I it's my job, all right. I don't want to make it sound like it's not, but I've drowned in complaints that I've received in the last 60 days. And again, this isn't so much a council consideration, but a commissioner consideration. Is what we think is appropriate on how to resolve those issues. For purposes of today's discussion with you all, again, it's a discussion about council conduct concerning council members. So, that's obviously within the purview of your authority to regulate. But, at the commissioners meeting, we don't have a lot in our employee handbook concerning problem resolution. It's about 2.5 paragraphs that we have at section 718 in our employee handbook. And that's something I think I'm going to bring up to the commissioners. What I don't want to be in the business of doing is sorting through complaints and me taking it upon myself or, the commissioners taking it upon themselves to determine on an ad hoc basis what is or is not meritorious. I don't think we need to be sorting through complaints and going, well, this one has merit, this one doesn't, because that opens up another realm of issues. But again, and I field emails from citizens, even though my email should be not out there amongst the public, people that are unhappy about council members. And again, my advice to them is just to keep things cordial. You may not like what somebody has to say, but attack the idea, not the person, because again, I'd echo what you have to say. I'm not sure which council member said it. At the end of the day, I would like to think everybody sitting in that meeting, public, council, really has one goal in mind. That's the betterment of Stark County. We have different ideas on how to get there, whether we think solar is the way to do it, whether we think other ways are the way to do it. Nobody's sitting in that meeting saying, I don't want what's best for Stark County. I want the county to fumble and flop. We just have different ideas on how to get there. So again, I'd encourage everybody to debate the idea. Don't throw the person under the bus. Don't attack the person. It's not everybody, but it is a small, but I think growing contingent of people that don't know how to do that. So anyway, again, sorry, I'm venting at this point. I'll get off my soapbox, but I appreciate you hearing me out. Again, from the commissioner's perspective, I plan on addressing problem resolution and expanding on that a little bit because there's just not a good method that we have to determine how to resolve problems, especially amongst elected officials. It's difficult. So thank you all for your time. It's a thankless job. Appreciate that y'all.
Thank you, Justin. We appreciate you, Justin.
Thank you.
I have one question for the council then before we leave that item. There seems to be some debate also that I heard maybe through the public too, that things weren't signed or seems like there's a little bit of unknown about our code of conduct. I'd like to suggest that we review our code of conduct and possibly ratify it and give it more teeth. So I was just gonna ask if you'd like to add that for our next agenda. I'll ask Sarah to send that out to everybody and also to our attorney. Obviously we govern ourselves, but it's worth, the commissioners getting to see it too. I think send it around to the executive, combined executive board. But for us to review that and see if it's what we want to be there. I mean, maybe some of you have already looked at it, but what do you think? Do you like to review it and possibly ratify it or have it at least up for?
You know what, Dave? I mean, I think we should. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty new to council, that. I think that's something that should be done at meeting one, every year, just to make sure that everybody, remembers and just knows that we're the one with the code of conduct. And I think that it's not a bad idea to make sure you're somewhat familiar with it to help remind.
Will you add that please to our next code of conduct review? And then would you mind sending it out to everybody? So we have it be prepared for our next meeting.
Council or?
All the council, well, let's copy the commissioners too, just so they can see what we're working with. I mean, it may be worthwhile looking at our code of conduct for all staff too, in our, just because maybe we haven't put eyes on it in a while and. You know, so I'll leave that up to the commissioners, but, you know, for us, I mean, I think we should all know our own code of conduct. And we should all sign it, and I think what Tony's saying is we should review it every year too, and it's not a bad idea, so. So can we leave that, and then we'll go to any public comment?
One question, is the council going on with this? Are they gonna just, I mean, is this discussion is over, or are you gonna?
I feel like at this point, unless something new is brought up, I mean, by the council, I feel like this will be the end of this discussion for now, aside from reviewing the code of conduct.
Oh,
I think the best counsel that I've ever seen comes from a book that we all need to be more tuned into, and it's treat others the way that we'd like to be treated. If we go through life with that philosophy, I think we could resolve a lot of issues.
I mean, that's a good point.
I'm gonna add to that, my bit of spiritual input. In the book of Proverbs, 16:7 says, when your ways please the Lord, even your enemies will be at peace with you. And so I take that literally. And I think that's good counsel.
I like that, you know, and I mean, if you open up the Quran, first 2 pages talk about treating others as you would treat yourself, and so I like that. Thank you for that, Bruce. With that, before we go to the public, is there any more business from the council or the commission?
I'd like to make since this is a public meeting, I'd like to make a comment. I know earlier this year, we had quite a bit of disagreement and things with our Stark County 4-H fair. Our fair has come and gone, it's passed. And I've heard nothing but good, nothing but praise, nothing but how it has improved immensely, how nice of a fair it was this year. And I would like to publicly congratulate our fair board and everybody that had anything to do with the Stark County 4-H fair for a major improvement. Thank you.
And you know, it's actually been they're even open-minded about the other festivals too, so like things are expanding like laterally too to other things, so it's not just. The fair board manages it for all the other festivals too, so like I think that they've got ideas on how to expand other things, so.
And add to what Howard said, we actually sat with some of the.
Yeah.
We sat with all the fair board.
Yeah, we said with them.
Every night.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I agree with them. I mean.
And I
heartily praise.
And I am pleased, I just found out about today, you know, the financial matter with the carnival really scared me for future carnivals. And I heard the carnival was really good. Really reasonable.
Right.
And I'm very pleased that they get to write the fair board a check instead of the fair board writing them a check.
Yeah, well, and I talked to a few of them too, and they said, look. We're sorry for getting so excited, because when I said, let's wait and see first, I honestly believed that they would make enough money, you know, like there were enough people out there that were excited about the idea. But there were other things too. The new hog barn, man, like there's a lot of things to come and see. You know, gosh, we got so many turkeys this year, they had to put some outside, you know, rabbits, like, you know, and kids, like, it got the 4-H kids excited too, because like, gosh, even at my house, like there were like extra projects, cakes being built out of foam, like even in my own household, and I saw this with other kids too, like they wanted to do more projects in other areas. So,
I mean, I grew up right down the street from that fair. You know, right down the street, like 500 feet. And I will say, this is the best fair that I can remember in over 40 years, by far. I usually don't go every night. I went every day just because the energy.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys did a fabulous job.
And it'll keep growing too. That's the thing. It'll keep growing because of the new barns and things. Breathing new excitement in it. It's gonna be nice.
You need someone show people how to park, you would have.
The fire department in the eighties and nineties and 2000s. We used to.
Each one of us took a night and we parked, and we're gonna have to get back to
In the
that.
previous 20 years, you hadn't needed anybody to park anybody.
Now.
There was nobody there.
Wow.
I got one more thing to say, and
Yeah.
I had to back up.
Yeah, it was a
Running
disaster.
somebody over with a stroller. I saw somebody's truck hit a trailer hitch and go down.
Oh,
It's almost as bad as hitting it with your leg.
no.
So, you know, I was a big voice for the carnival, but I didn't believe that it was up to the county to, you know, provide us with entertainment, you know,
Yeah.
so I wasn't a fan that, you know, the county did agree to cover the shortages, you know, it's 50-50, you know, but, and I was like you, I was in high hopes, I knew that it was gonna be successful. You know, so when the fair board announced that we were having the carnival this year, like, it brought joy to my heart, because I was a kid running around those fairs, you know, so. I do thank you guys for, you know, agreeing to cover the shortages in order to get the ball rolling, you know, I'm glad that the county didn't have to spend any money towards it, and that hopefully this is a sign for a future, hopefully, you know, years.
Hopefully so.
We lit a fire, the council did, and it was getting kind of big, but now it's kind of, you know. Settled, so like everybody's on the same page now.
you know what I found through life is advancements come from having adverse discussions. That got pretty heated last spring. Which is fine. And I think of the good that happened. We didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I want to go one step further. I think I probably disagree with Justin. I was back 30+ years ago when we wrote the initial outline for our economic development in this county. I would love to see either through economic development money or through solar money. I would like to see us as a county invest in some new restrooms over there that are safe and clean and protected for our youth. And I'm just throwing that out there, but I wish we could all consider that.
I like that idea. And then we also a different strategy on using them during practices, like I'm at the horse practices and people run home to go to the bathroom. I mean, but I haven't ever asked the fair board for a key either. But, you know, I think once we had bathrooms that were structured better, it'd be easier to do things like that too and use them throughout the year as opposed, for 4-H training and things.
I suggest going over to Marshall County and looking at theirs, so that's
okay.
Very nice.
I thought you were gonna suggest going to Marshall County and use the bathroom. I was gonna say, my house is closer.
When you're 70, you can't hold it.
Anything else from the board? Don?
Nope.
Anything else from the audience?
All right, so, I talked with you before, about the code of conduct and. Just my 2 thoughts on a code of conduct, and I agree that, you know, as a governing body, that there should be a code of conduct, and that, you know, that our elected representatives should hold themselves to a certain standard. My one problem I have with that, which I mentioned to you before, is the comment of we police ourselves.
Stuff for the
That doesn't really sit over too well. I got myself and I got Larry, majority of this county, you know, people can police ourselves, and that never really. It might start out well, but then you start running into, you know, say nobody else up here is up here, you know, in 10 years, and then you have a whole nother branch of people that police themselves, but aren't as reliable as, you know, say you said. I think that, you know, that term of we policing ourselves could down the road lead to further messes, I guess.
So you support the idea of reviewing it annually, like I think Tony brought up or Bruce won?
I think that, I do think that, reviewing it annually or even every other year, when you get, you know, new members.
Because honestly, to that point, if we have a code of conduct, if there had to be action to be taken, there's nobody that could take it but us.
Yeah.
But the council, because there's obviously no recall elections in Indiana.
Yeah.
There's no other way for anybody to do anything to any governing body.
The council is
Yeah.
unique in that way by statute is the
So,
thing.
so like, my thing is like,
I agree, it should be reviewed.
as I said, at a governing body, not just one county council and then, you know, the rest of our governing body and the county is free to do and say as they please because they don't have a code of conduct. I've witnessed acts from several different boards, you know, that would have fallen under clear violation.
And
So I would ask that, like, if we were gonna have a code of conduct, that it be for everybody, whether it be a county elected official or a county employee, you know, that.
Well, we do have a handbook for that. It's just, in our case, it's unique just by statute.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, and we, you know, the last few years, we've had a couple of situations where we've had to exercise things. But I don't disagree, like, we should all be held to the same standard, I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at too. It's just that in the case of the council, though, we can remove somebody from this council. We have done it. But it's kind of new territory also. Like when I was at AIC, I talked to the AIC attorney about this too. And Stark County, in a way, in the past with some actions has set a precedence, and it's been unknown since then, and some of it's still unknown. I mean, the easiest way is for us all to get along and kind of, that's why if the council, we can get together and agree on something, then we set expectations for each other. They're a little bit higher than, say, like, if we're not an elected official. I think it's the point people are trying to make here is just that we want to be a little bit above, right? Is that what you guys are trying to say here?
I guess what I'm saying is talk to your constituents and the public in a decent manner. Without, cursing and thing. I'm talking about treating the public. I mean, obviously you're gonna treat everybody around you. Like, we're gonna sit up here, we're gonna disagree. We've disagreed, all of us have. I mean, everybody's disagreed here. But we don't come out with some certain vulgar and just, I think we need to keep everything, just, civil. And I think, I think that's just a real way you should be.
Right. And the other thing too is
sometimes, and I'm just saying, but there's certain things.
Yeah. Some things really are a civil matter. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, you guys have seen it. I have a handful of people that are liable against me for saying things about me about solar. I'm just gonna say it, and you guys should know that. People say that I'm taking money and all these other things.
I've heard them say about it, pretty much they make it sound like the whole group. I mean,
Right, and I mean,
it's like,
when they specifically use your name on for things like that, you'll see, that's gonna cost them. But, well, I mean, that's for me to deal with as a civil matter personally, not to drag the council into it.
Right. So back to the we police ourselves. And this is just an idea I'm gonna throw out there. But it is actually, I want to say a movement that's moving across the country of county grand juries. We establish a county grand jury that way. If there are violations of code of conduct, this and that, it gets brought to the grand jury to decide rather than, the council deciding upon themselves. And I'm not implying that, you guys are on the up and up, but once you guys are gone, who's to say somebody else isn't gonna take advantage of eliminating their political opponents or something like you see.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
The majority rule each board. It
Yeah,
don't matter which board. I don't agree someone out of the public coming.
Deciding.
well, and to remove, and it doesn't, here's the thing, guys, too. I think if you look at our code of conduct, it doesn't automatically say remove, and we could say, look, do a public. I mean, do this, I mean, it's not automatically remove.
Well, so when
somebody.
there is a system, it can be taken advantage of.
Sure, but I think you have to have a majority, or don't you have to have a unanimous, so you'd have to have everybody on there.
and we're gonna review it in our next meeting, so I mean, the public can see what ours consistent.
Why would you do that? And you say, well, this is what I seen, how I felt, and
So,
But we
but
still
with
govern
with a public grand jury, and it's not just, people that are, one-sided, whatever, it's a grand jury that is put together and basically, like, it takes the dirt off the council's hands, these are the complaints, take it to the grand jury, it lets the grand jury, because these are the voting, this is the voting public, this grand jury is. So, you guys aren't getting the dirt on your hands of having to remove an elected official and, which may in turn you know, you might find some backlash on it.
Hopefully, we won't have the frequency to need something like that too. Right, hopefully this is it for a while. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but definitely something that we can bring up as well at our next meeting when we talk about the code of conduct. I'm just gonna go up to the front. Did you have anything else, Roberta?
I have a couple of things. One, I do agree with Tony that I think it's something that should be regularly looked at. I think there's a lot of things in the county that really annually probably should be looked at. Especially as we get new members, right? If you've got a new elected official, they should also have to sign. I mean, if you're gonna do a code of conduct, it needs to be signed by the people that are sitting in the chair every time. And that's where I'll leave it with the code of conduct. I do have a couple of questions. I don't know, are we specifically looking at just code of conduct?
No, actually, we're not supposed to be talking about code of conduct, so go ahead. This is general business.
Okay, got it. All right, so I am curious, do we know, when was the county, and I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to miss. Do we know when was the county and the council informed that Mammoth hadn't filed their deduction for the tax abatement? I know about 30 days ago or so, when we were at a meeting, you had mentioned that we'd start getting the tax abatement money January 1st for the partial year. But as we know, it sounds like they didn't file their deduction according to the deduction paperwork. We got the notice from the DGLF around May 15th, I believe. So now we know that Mammoth is not paying us in January for the tax abatement. Instead, they're going to pay taxes. Now, I understand that they'll be able to try again to go for the tax abatement next year. But there'll need to be, a new meeting. You guys will have to re-vote and determine whether or not you're gonna allow them to go for the tax abatement. But I'm just curious, when as a county, I spoke to a couple of people on the council and nobody was aware of this until the statement was made on the news July 1st. So when did we find out they didn't file their deduction?
So you answered that, actually, I think in one of the commissioners' meetings. They weren't filing it until they started O&M, which is operations and management of the project. So now they can file for their abatement.
But they have to do it, you guys have to do a new public hearing for that, according to the DGLF. I can send you the email.
Okay, yeah, send it to me. I can't really speak to it until I see what you're speaking about, what they said, so.
So, and I know the O&M thing you had brought up for next era. And that was the decommissioning. So.
Actually, I thought you were confusing it with the decommissioning. The decommissioning bond, you had a question about why there's a difference. One has a $25 million bond, the other one is able to look at the scrap. It's just two ways of doing decommissioning, but they're the same thing.
Okay. Well, we'll go to that. That's a
Yeah.
different question. But with the tax abatement, I guess what I don't understand is when I spoke to several council members, they believed in January, our first payment from Mammoth was for the tax abatement. And it's.
We have an economic development agreement in place. It's signed by both parties. We intend to hold them to that. Send me what you have from the DLGF.
Okay.
And then I think we can, or send, and I'll send it to everybody if you have everybody's email. Let us review that first. If you're referencing a communication with them. I wish I had known before last Friday. We just met with the commissioner from the DLGF. But I can speak to that if you send that. I'm not sure what the context is, so I don't want to misspeak.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah, I was just confused because it seemed like nobody knew that we weren't getting the economic development payment in January.
Our intention is to hold them to their the agreement, the economic development agreement as written. Our intention is to hold them to that. They have agreed to that. So let me see what you're talking about from the DLGF and we can.
And then one other question, and again, I'll send it to you, is according again to the DLGF, the first step in the process for the abatement is the SB form, which is what I was asking for way back December of last year. I have some of the paperwork that I requested, still waiting for some of it. But on that, the SB form, the ERA and the EDA are all dated for the exact same day. Now, according to the DLGF, in order for you guys to have done the tax abatement, first the company submits the SB form. And you guys review the SB form, create the public hearing, do the EDA, ERA from there. So I don't know how all of those things can be dated for the exact same day when the SB form was required first.
Again, send me the email from the DLGF because I asked the DLGF these things when they were here at the head of it. and it was as clear as mud for them. So send me what you're talking about so I can speak to it.
Yeah. It was-
I'll defer to,
So I was communicating.
we met with Steve McKinney. I'll defer to Justin if he wants to answer anything now, but like for the council, I prefer that we see what you're talking about, that the LG. You know, I'll just say, when it comes to Nextera and Mammoth, it's our expectation of them being nothing less than a good neighbor and a good partner with us. So we're not accusing them of doing anything snide or, you know, sneaky.
Yeah, I don't think anything was done intentionally. I think it was just myths, right? I don't believe they're trying to screw us or that I don't believe that.
We have an attorney that's representing us. They have an attorney that's representing them. We'll speak to them, but like I said, let me see what you're speaking about first.
We weren't getting the abatement until July first, that instead we were getting taxes. So.
Let me review that, because, yeah, but before I speak to that, but we are, like I said, we are intending to hold them to the agreement that they signed and we signed. So you know what that says, and so our intention is to hold them to that, so.
I have a question. Does Stark County have a documented retention policy? I mean, in regards to this new solar activity, there seems to be a lot of you besides expensive or extensive legal documentation that county stores, their tax abatement agreements, all these documents. Do we have a good method to check that documentation for the next 25, 30, 50
Yeah.
years?
Well, I'm glad you asked this, because
I'm afraid if this building was destroyed.
Yeah.
By a hurricane or tornado or fire.
it has actually burnt once. It burnt once.
Yeah. It wasn't me.
You raise a good point for two reasons. The answer to that is yes, we have a mirrored backup system that is electronic, so it's as good as the electronic exists. Now, I'll take a lot of responsibility for the snafu that happened with some of that paperwork. We were just trying to be casual and help people that were asking for things. So in some cases, the auditor had, again, since I get a lot of this fire on the internet for being, I'll say again, a lot of those documents I helped write. These folks weren't on the board at the time, so that, you know, that's why I don't want them held to any of the dissatisfaction that people have. But going back to that, because of that, sometimes I had the final document, but maybe only I signed it, because then I sent it back off for counter signature. I was just trying to be helpful in sharing that, so I in some cases shared that with the auditor. But in actual fact, those documents were countersigned. It's just, at that time, the auditor just had had that copy that I had, for example. So again, I take responsibility for that. I apologize to anybody that hurt. In the future, what we've decided is that official requests will be made for documentation, and then we won't be doing any more casual sharing. It'll go through the auditor's office, or it'll be through a FOIA request. That way there's no mistake. That way, you as a taxpayer, if there's any cost associated with that, you know, that's not, you know, overlooked. So from now on, we'll be more official about that. We dropped the ball. I personally dropped the ball, and I apologize.
Concern here is, I mean, I'm not talking about documents and stuff like that. These documents, are they stored in such a way that
They're stored electronically? Some documents.
Multiple years that these leases are going on.
Yeah.
To protect those that are leasing and also the county.
Okay, so the one thing we have to be careful of is only a portion of what we are involved with, you know, protects the people that are in the lease. That's why sometimes we just don't have the answers, because we don't get to see everything that they engage in. But it was mentioned earlier, like the decommissioning bond, for example, that's something we were involved with helping protect them. Where we could be involved, we are. But we have to stay in our own lane too when it comes to the agreement. Those agreements are between property owner and the solar companies. That's why, you know, there's been questions about, well, why didn't you tell us sooner? Like, we didn't know until later in the game either. And there were public hearings. When the public hearings were held, that's when we found out too. We didn't have any, and even me, like the guy that has all this, money going in my pocket supposedly. I didn't know either. I mean, it was new to me. I wish I had known, at least to have a little bit more foresight into it, but we don't get that deeply involved with the property owner side,
But
unfortunately.
decommissioning, the county is very heavily involved, isn't it? Because they're holding these companies.
Yeah, that's why we're involved in that part of it. So, yeah, you know, the thing is we won't see it in this lifetime, but there is a point where documentation, and I don't want to misspeak, this is a Mandy question, but some court documents are held longer than legal documents, and then they get destroyed. We have a massive storage of paper documents currently, but they're all different timeouts. Does anybody, Sarah, do you happen to know the different ones, like what the timing is on those?
I just know employee records are 75 years.
75 years for employee. Like, this is a durable contract that we're involved with it, and it can extend up to 30 years. So I'm assuming that we will, but I can get that answer for you. Or we should discuss that with the commissioners. I think you know, as far as our best ability to do that is 30 through the durability of the contract. But, you know, the thing is that today we have much better ability, using clouds and all these other things to store electronic things better than we did. Even, you know, we had some electronic back in the old days, but sometimes those could get lost from a virus or whatever else, and then a fire and a virus together. Now there's redundancy that protects us from that electronically.
Yeah, I would think that, especially for like decommissioning, you want to hold on
Well,
to that.
let me be really specific about the decommissioning, because we also review that every 5 years, because it can go both ways. Like in 5 years, it might be to the benefit of the solar company. My guess, though, is because of technology, because of equipment costs, all those kind of things, it's actually going to go up incrementally. So what happens is that at that juncture, we have a meeting together, and the first thing that happens is says, okay, we need to have a separate engineering firm that's separate from Stark County to protect the solar companies, that's separate from the solar companies to protect us. And so what they'll say, okay, and I'm not sure if that's going to be the commissioner of the council, but it'll be the executive body. We'll meet with them and they'll say, okay, are both still comfortable with that engineering entity? And then once you agree that that is, you know, the point you're going to move forward, we are going to move forward with that firm. Maybe the firm's not in existence anymore, who knows? But we're going to do that. Then they'll actually put a monetary value on that, and then you'll decide. So to answer a lot of the questions that Roberta's had about that, maybe at that point, the decommissioning exceeds the scrap value of the NextEra project. And so then it'll trigger a dollar amount. Maybe in the case of Mammoth, you know, it has an adjustment on the dollar value. And so that's decided at that 5-year point. So every 5 years, the documents are going to be renewed too, which I think will not just be a benefit for the financial part, but also to your concern about document storage and, you know, and the wellness of the documentation itself.
Well, I started this off by asking them if they had a document retention policy or whatever. And what actually brought that up was your discussion of code of conduct, to have something written down to advise people, newcomers, as to what the rules are. And I could also see for county employees that take care of these documents, what guidance are they given as to what's needed in these documents, how they're stored, where they're stored, how they're supposed to be treated, when or when not they're supposed to be handed out. And I think that as the, you know, the county is growing a little bit, there ought to be a guidance as to what a listing or a policy is to how you retain these important documents so that everyone's on the same page. It's like everyone wants to council.
Sarah, is there something that HR does currently to retain those documents, like the handbook and things like that?
Oh,
You really need to have that.
yeah, like you have everything's in files and.
Do you have paper copies and then you have the
and
server
everything.
here? And then also IT backs that up to the mirror server also.
I think we have underground storage too.
Underground, well,
At least the recorder, I think, has like underground storage.
yeah, that's what I said. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Mandy has a lot of extra
Yeah.
things, yeah.
We spent all that ARPA money and scanned in a bunch of documents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Last year
Yep.
from several offices,
yes,
the clerk's office and the recorder as well.
yeah. But that's also our code, you know, like all the codification, you know, but the problem is some of it's outdated, some of it's on paper, but like all counties are suffering from that too, and they're reviewing those kind of things, but it just takes so much depth. You have to hire more employees to do a lot of that document storage. So some of our old stuff still on paper.
So, well, my concern is that in time, what we know today is kind of known down the road.
Moving forward, you're right.
How-
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember when I was county highway, I'm a surveyor, I don't know. I had to go up in the top of the courthouse at third floor. Because we needed to find a record of a road from the 1800s. So you go up in there, first you gotta fight the bats off, okay? It's like 500 degrees up there. And then at that time, here's all these old books. You know, from the 1800s, you know, and it is, it's so cool, but. That stuff is so fragile.
Yeah.
And actually, when people wrote in cursive, if they remember cursive, they would write everything in cursive, so. Anybody that's probably under, just don't take this in offense, under 45, probably couldn't read it.
Yeah, well, and the type of cursive back then, I was trying to read some of my grandmother's stuff, I can't read it.
Yeah, it's way elegant, it's just, yeah, it's amazing.
It looks very beautiful, but you can't read it.
So, so Dave, you brought up the decommissioning agreement. I know that I did ask you about it. I guess what I'd like to better understand is who, so. The ordinance requires a very in-depth decommissioning agreement. Like it requires certain things be included with that documentation from whatever company we hire or the solar company hires to look into that. So one question is, who hires that person? Is that us or is that?
We both agree on it. Like there aren't a whole lot of them out there, to be honest. There's like 3 or 4 really that are involved in that, but we agree mutually on doing that, yes.
So we make that decision and I guess from there, so, you know, as I've read into things, right? So now the tech committee is the first step for the permitting. So they review the site plan, they review everything. It doesn't look like they review all documents. It looks like it's just really the site plan specifications that they're checking. And then the planning department would be the next.
Yeah.
Because they would verify that we
Yes.
have everything that we need
Yes.
in addition to what the tech committee said.
Yes.
So they check with the drainage board, they check with, you know, all the different moving parts, right? It's not an easy process. We never said it was. And, you know, I think that, you know, I said from day one that, look, I mean, it's kind of impressive that we've gotten as much as we have all in the right places. What I'm wondering is who makes the decision? So do we just take whatever the engineering firm says and agree to it? Or as a county, do we have the ability to come back and look at? The reality is Mammoth's decommissioning agreement, 12, 13 pages, right? It breaks everything down exactly as it should based on our ordinance. When you read the engineering report for NextEra, it's a letter with them basically telling us how great they are, a quick breakdown, and then one more page, and that's it. It's 3 pages.
Mhm.
And the reason for my question was, while I understand the salvage value, in Mammoth, we're salvaging the mat, you know, the steel, the copper. That all makes sense, right? That we would salvage all of those things. The difference with NextEra is we're including the resale value. They included the resale value of the POVs, the solar panels.
Sure, yeah.
Which is fine, except that one, we have to be able to sell them. And there's no guarantee in 2 years. I understand we revisit in 5. I'm worried about the first 5 years, right? So if we can't resell them, number one, let's just say hypothetically, right? We just saw it in Texas. We've seen it other places. The entire field gets hit by a hailstorm. Now all the panels are damaged. Well, now we have no resale value and instead the county is left to pay the cost to actually dispose of them. So I'm just wondering, who would have decided?
You answered your own question. They would be scrapped then, as opposed to resellable panels.
The thing that you're missing is that there's EPA violations then, because those things require EPA extra steps and there's only 2.
So I'm gonna cut that short because
They're in there. Dave, I'd like to ask a question before we get any further. Now, we talk about the county's responsibility, but those leases are to individual farmers. Now, listen, I go in and plant a corn crop.
It's up to you.
I take the risk of putting that corn crop in. I I believe that landowners ought to do what they want to. But they took a risk when they accepted the high cost of their lease. I'm not thinking that the county has that responsibility. It's the landowner. And am I right or am I wrong?
I agree with
And
this.
I couldn't agree more, but then I guess where my question is coming in is then why do we have the I mean, it was supposed to be to protect the county, so then I guess my question is, what is our recourse of the county, God forbid something
I
like
think
that
you're
happens?
right.
I think the county's just acting like a facilitator.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of basically, you know.
We're looking out where we can look out. That's why I asked this question the other day, Roberta, and I got beat up for it, but that's why I was asking. What I meant was, who are you representing? Are you representing the property owners? Because it's a different answer if you're just if you're representing John Q. Public with the questions about the decommissioning agreement, it means one thing. But if you're representing the property owners, it means something else, because they're the ones that have skin in the game, but somebody bashed the.
I would be representing the general public versus them.
Okay.
but-
I don't know.
So what skin does the general public have in that game? I'm just asking.
No, absolutely. I guess where, for me, what I see is.
I think that's what needs to be clarified.
Correct, because here's my problem with it. If I'm a farmer, right, and I can do what I want on my land. And I put all this up and then hailstorm comes along, right?
Yeah.
And next era, you know, for whatever reason, decides not to put the solar back, right? Now, all of this stuff is just out there, right? And if we're saying it's up to the landowner, are we gonna make them, or am I gonna be now looking at dilapidated solar behind a fence that's not being maintained anymore? That's where my.
Why would they not have to still honor the, I'm just asking, like, what's yours?
If there's a bond, the
Yeah.
bond cannot go away.
Right.
There is no bond for next year. I mean, there is no bond.
But we have this, they could, each property owner could scrap that.
They can, but what makes us say that they will? What I'm saying is what makes Bruce go in and actually get rid of all of that.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is, I think our zoning.
Yeah, we have to-
There is violation, final, and then if not, we would take personal property, maybe it's, well, I'm sure it's fine. If you have a bunch of junk cars sitting in your house, now I'm thinking out loud, I don't know.
No, I know, that's.
Now I'm thinking that that's why we have people with ordinance, you go out there and you find the property owner every day, just like they do. You wanna get some zoning, come right here in town, park a camper out in your front yard and see what happens.
Right.
Like, it is, and then they go in there, fine, eventually the property owner owns it. And I guess the county would take just the property and they clean it up. Same as
Zone ordinance that they might be able to.
But listen, these guys do ordinances all the time. We didn't even have anybody enforcing any kind of ordinance just last 2 years ago. Now we've got. Yeah, that's what we've got the BZA and these guys for. That's got those drives around.
Hey, Robertus, I haven't,
That's just one way.
the bond,
Yeah.
I haven't seen. Whose name is it written in?
But we don't have one, that's the thing.
No, he's talking about for Mammoth.
For Mammoth,
Mammoth,
yeah.
It's in Stark, it's Mammoth, it's Stark County.
Okay, so we're acting as a facilitator. If we're on that bond, we can pull that bond. So that bond's gonna be for $5 million.
That one is.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if that scrap value is
We're
1 million or 6 million. It doesn't matter.
dollars from Mammoth.
Yeah.
In that bond. My
That
problem
shows
is that
probably how they wrote the bond.
This is fantastic. I think.
Yeah.
Mammoth-
Just to understand, it's not a check for 18 million though.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a
No.
check for 18 million. It's gonna be whatever it costs to remove it.
So it could cost, if it costs $1 million to restore it, they're only gonna pull $1 million of that bond. They're not gonna get them all in.
But where I get concerned is with next era, the fact that there is no bond. Like basically, we took the salvage value and called it a wash.
Right
I
now,
mean,
5 more years, we'll evaluate that
right,
again.
but what happens? Well, what if we have a storm tomorrow and they walk?
You're answering your own question, then it's scrap. It's like, we can sell, what it says is if they're intact, we can sell them as intact panels.
But they valued it as.
The scrap
good. You did
value.
not read it. It's based on good working condition. We valued it at 160. Go look at the document.
I'm saying for the cost of decommissioning, Roberta, I'm not saying for the full cost of the value of the panels. We couldn't ask them for that. We can't just say, oh, you're just gonna give us all these working panels. Unless they walk away from it, but we can't just take their property.
I'd love to just sit down with just somebody and look at it, because when you look at the documents, what I'm trying to say is, when you look at Mammoth, they broke it down to how much it's gonna cost to hire the people to go in and pull it. They broke it down by the salvage value of however many rows of posts that we get. I mean, they broke it down. It is fantastic.
So you're assuming that Nextera hasn't done that with their engineering company.
Well, They surely didn't give it to us.
Is there an obligation in the document to
Yes.
make that available to you,
Well,
the
there-
breakdown? No, it's not. There's just the agreement there. I mean, they're not just gonna, an engineering firm isn't just gonna come up with some number and say, like, we didn't break this down, like they broke it down too.
That breakdown according to the ordinance. I mean, you gotta look at the ordinance.
Yeah.
It requires a full breakdown. But my point, and again.
I'll find out about that. I have to make a call about something to Nextera today, so I'll find out about that.
But I think to her question, what would happen if a hailstorm had come in and destroyed it? I'll guarantee you, we don't have those figures, but those companies do, and I'll guarantee you, just like my corn crop, it's insured.
Unless they go out of business.
Well,
I'm reading that.
yeah, that,
Florida Light and Power is a big company. Like, why would you think that, I'm just asking you, like, you guys are talking a lot of fire and brimstone.
I'm reading this.
Why would they go out of business? Why would Florida Light and Power, this massive company, that has, they have like 72 renewable projects that are viable right now. Like, why would they go out of business because a few panels get busted up? I'm just asking, like.
Just like any big company, whenever.
Give me an example of that one.
Excuse me, whenever a big company decides it's more profitable to dump this, they do it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they decide that there's too much of a risk in dealing with it.
Okay. In fairness, give me an example then of a power company that has a $15 million investment that just walked away from their investment. Give me an example then and I'll understand. I'm just saying, help me understand this.
In fairness, I say it's best to be prepared for the whole situation in this day and age. Nothing.
You understand, that's what the decommissioning agreement's for.
I understand.
Beyond that, I can't, as an elected official, I just can't, we look at for the property owners,
But when
may have some kind of insurance too, I don't know.
Ordinance states that something must be there, then it should be there.
Let me ask you a question. It seems to me that it would satisfy you like Mammoth's decommission, the way it's written, right?
Well, it's not that I like it,
But-
it's just,
but
it meets the ordinance.
I understand.
Yeah,
Can we look into the possibility that NextEra creates a document and a decommission
that's what should happen
plan
based
the-
on the ordinance.
that follows Mammoth, so we're more, so the county, so we're a little more consistent? On every
Speaking to
company.
Nextera today, I'll ask them what they're thinking about it.
I'm just saying to satisfy everybody, Dave, if well, the three companies, if their decommission documents were all very similar, okay? They don't maybe have to be exactly, but similar in nature. With that, I'm trying to make two sides come to an agreement.
Just know it's not a matter of satisfying me. Everybody seems to think you're trying to satisfy me. I'm just trying to satisfy the ordinance as it's written.
Well, not, wait a minute, wait, 1 second, Todd, because again, something's being put on me about you, and that's not what I said. I said, are you representing the property owners or the taxpayers? But no, I'm talking about here, I'm talking about calling me out on the internet, because you have.
When- first of all,
I'm just saying.
Dan, you are starting a war because
I want to make a motion for Dave to take these guys to lunch while we go home. I did my time to call you out, Dave. It's time to come to
We got more things. So we made this meeting.
I feel like I was being more than fair. I was just answering Howard that it's not me that, and I love where you're going. My point was just, it's not a matter of satisfying me, the people, it's a matter of satisfying our ordinance. Why would we do one thing for one company in the ordinance and something different for another?
Well, and I wasn't suggesting that we were, but.
Well, with that being said, it appears to me that we ought to have the planning commission attorney ought to look at them and say, are they good? Are they, and be done, and then it's over with.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's not our call to make, but that's my recommendation.
So, and just where we started with this is the planning department who I would ask, I don't even know who to go to.
Okay.
If
The other
they
commissioner.
ask questions. I came here because Dave is our liaison, so I thought he could answer questions. That's all.
That's the planning commission
Okay.
thing, I
Thank
would
you.
think.
Planning Commissioner Attorney, would you like to make any comments now, or would you like to speak later?
I'm sorry, Justin.
No, that's okay. I'm glad I stayed on. I mean, granted, 2, 3, 4 years ago, when this all went through, when the adjustments were made, it was a different planning commission attorney, so the fact that some of us can't recall off the top of our head specific facts from that time, there was a reason for that. It's because, when I took over a year ago, we already had all these inputs that went into it. You know, when there's documents that we've needed from the companies, usually send it over to us. It's a two-part thing. It's here's the documents. By the way, there's 200 documents of input that went into this. Let us know if you want it. You know, to speak to the decommissioning plan, it's the same way. It's, hey, there was 200 pages vetted by the planning commission 3 years ago that went into this. Let us know if you need it, but here's the document.
20% was on, that's all.
So, yeah, I mean, let Bose know, he'll get it on the agenda. It'll be discussed. If inputs are needed, we'll provide those inputs.
Paying her benefits too.
If it's answers to discretionary decisions that were made, that's a different answer, right? If it's, well, thank you for giving us the document, by the way, why on section 4, line A, 1 through 5 did you do
But
this?
we don't need to cut it.
Right? There is a difference in the questions. It's provide us this document versus why did you do this within the purview of your discretionary authority? That's a different question. So I can't answer those discretionary questions. But you know, if it's inputs that you are needing, again, inputs, everything that goes into the IDEM decision that you see, everything that goes into the DLGF decision that you see via letter, everything that goes into the engineering report, you know, I'm sure those can be gathered. Maybe Dave, like you said, when you touch base with whomever you're speaking to with next year, you can say, hey, you know, there was a question about the engineering stamp that we got. Even though the stamp is the culmination of, hey, everything is in order, can you give us the 200 pages of breakdown or 20 pages of breakdown that went into that? Then all the better. So I'll do however you direct me.
Yeah, I'll ask next Tara for that. I guess the question was, and I you know, was, do we feel comfortable with both decommissioning agreements? The planning commission did, I did, I believe the commissioners did. I don't know what else to answer. You know, as the liaison, I don't know what I'm not meeting my expectation with, but.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't understand who saw it, right? And that's why I started out, Dave. And I just want to be clear. I don't think that I've been unfair to you. I don't know what post you're referencing, but jumping down my throat today was really uncalled for.
When did I jump down your throat?
Just 2 minutes ago, you went off when I was addressing Howard to address me about that, which I don't know where it was coming from. Either way, my point earlier was who signs off on it, and the answer that I got was the planning commission. So if what we're saying here is that the council saw it, the commissioners saw it, and everybody signed off, then I guess there's no question, right? I just didn't understand why we would have two very different looking decommissioning processes when both companies were on the exact same ordinance.
But not at the same time. But not at the same time. You really,
Same.
but you realize we changed as we went along too. I mean, next Tara was first.
Until after their permits.
Yeah.
Their permits were within like a month of each other. So.
Okay, well, like I said, we were comfortable with both styles. I mean, they both do the same thing. I mean, I just want to make sure you understand, like, just because it's 18, all right. Just because there's $18 million doesn't mean they write an $18 million check. It's whatever it costs to decommission. So they're the same thing right now. You know.
Right.
They do the same thing.
Of having an ordinance that the standards and requirements of that ordinance aren't going to be held.
Yeah, but Justin, I mean, to that point. I mean, I've been in construction all my life, okay? And I've worked for contractors, I've worked for the state, I've worked whatever. And we always have to post bonds and meet specs. Well, two different people can look at two different things, two different ways, and you can have different results. But the intent and the final end result is the same. And I'm not saying that's what happens here, but I've seen a lot of projects where two things are side by side. They're both different in how the scope of the work is done. And they're still following specifications and rules, just like an ordinance, basically. And they look totally different, but they both can be acceptable. I'm not saying that's the case with this, but they're not gonna be exactly the same.
And understand that, when it's ordinance is specific and saying, you know, you're going to itemize your decommission. You should hold that over all three.
Yeah, no, I
things that are.
I'll ask for it.
Yeah.
I sit on the planning commission and Justin's our attorney. I think it's fair to say, Justin, this is Howard. We'll compare the two and make sure that they're both acceptable. and satisfy the to satisfy the planning commission
And the ordinance.
and the ordinance. Right, Justin?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'm not speaking out of turn, right? I mean, what I'm saying is, that's something that we can accomplish,
That sounds fair.
but not saying that they're both gonna be identical.
They're two different jobs, I understand.
We're gonna have it as a meeting till next month.
You still wanna have a meeting next month? Yeah, so we're not having a meeting till next month. Why did you have something?
No, I just wonder.
Oh.
I mean, it seems like. I'm just figuring out how I'm gonna use it the rest of my vacation time for the year.
Oh, what did say back? So we got a response back from the court. So I think what she was saying was that the 20%, this is for the advocate, the victim's advocate. She's saying that the 20% isn't just based on her salary, it's based on her benefits also, which obviously is about twice the amount of the salary, so.
You need to put it back into. Is what she's.
I was thinking that we would have had more of a deduction then, but maybe I'm thinking about it backwards.
Well, did you read that there's a grant decrease? Increase the grant by 10%.
See, that's what I'm always worried about grants too, like we approve something and then, just like earlier Justin talked about something going away and then we're stuck holding the bag.
I'll be back. Well, didn't we say? When we approved something that was funded partially by a grant, when the grant went away, so did possibly that.
I don't know. I don't know if we did it on that specific one, but we need to.
We do.
We need to make a note, I always do that.
We always talk about it, and that was understood and put in the minutes to that.
It was only $1,000, wasn't it?
No.
It was.
Let's go back, let's take a quick look.
Longevity was in her salary.
Longevity was in the other line, the longevity got combined.
When. The out of 008. It's
Yeah.
mostly under 9117, which you approved, but then
I
there's a shop.
gave everything back to you, so I don't know. Where's the papers I gave you? Then I can figure it out.
Well, we're not actually approving it till the budget hearing. What we could also do is just tell her to bring it,
There,
put it back and we'll revisit it at the budget hearing with a note on it that. Would you guys rather do that rather than go all the way back down the rabbit hole?
I think we're just. I think we're wasting a bunch of
it
time.
went from like
Yeah.
17. 6902.
Right, or something.
Didn't you cut that?
17 to 85,
What was it?
which makes sense because people's benefits are about twice what their salary is, so.
I think that's why she had it.
I hate that though, that the grant went down and then we gotta hold the bag. Well, I'd say we just tell her to bring the whole thing and make a note about it when we do the budget hearing. I mean, the budget workshop is,
It's that.
yeah, so. Well, actually, no, because they have to upload this though too.
They can put it in the way it is and we can change it. Right?
No, because
We have to do some appropriations next year.
we'll have to do an additional appropriation again. You know what?
But
Let's just move it back. I see her justification because if it's benefits, it would be about twice the amount. So. I'll make a motion that we go back to the original value of. For the victim's advocate. As advertised.
Is this in the court budget?
Yeah.
I know we can't,
It's a prosecutor budget.
I know we can't always do a whole lot with the court system.
No,
When they come in and they do their budget, I'm kind of disappointed because I don't think some of them have really put the time and the effort into their budgets that,
yeah, the prosecutor has had an illness, so we've kind of given her a buy on it, and the person that came has only been doing it for a couple days, so. But that's my motion that we go back to the original amount.
I'll second your
I have a
motion.
motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Somebody like to make a motion to conclude our meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Have a motion, is there a second? All in favor?
Oh, do we have to? Are we adjourned?
Yes.